don't have anything yet.
Yeah, Jason's holding up.
Got stream on YouTube.
That's a good idea, Jason. Yeah,
All
nice.
right. Just verify on my end, since I don't believe you. No, I cannot get to the link. Hold on.
Yeah, there you are. You're here.
Okay.
Yeah. Ooh, we're live.
Oh, I was on the right page. Okay, so we're good. All right. Hold on. Pop out the chat. And we will have our patron saint kick us off.
You are watching CoCoTALK, the world's leading weekly video podcast, featuring the Tandy color computer. We spread the love to the past, present, and future for all models, including the original color computer, the CoCo 3, and the world-renowned exclusive French-Canadian CoCo 2, the Radio Shack.
There it is! Oh, okay. No. Ah!
At CoCoTALK, we'd like to thank our Patreon sponsors. A warm thanks go out to Al Hartman, Alan Huffman, Alan Murphy, Blair Ledoux, Brendan Donaghy, Brian Joyce, Brian Weasler, Christina Armstrong, D. Bruce Moore, Davey Mitchell, Diego, Disney Saints fan, Eric Canales, Fedor Stamen, Glenn Hewlett, Graham Webkey, Grant Leedy, Jason Bucata, Jason Downs, Jenna Farron, Ken Reichert, Kyle Eder, Malfunct, Michael Pitsley, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Richard Lorbieski, Rob Inman, Stephen Wagner, Steve Bjork, Terry Steen, Terry Steggy, The Backyard Shed Gang, Tom C., Tom S., and Tim Lindner. Thank you ever so much, patrons. CoCoTALK is an unscripted live broadcast. Anything can and will happen. The views and opinions expressed by members of the panel and the live audience are their own and not necessarily those of the CoCoTALK show, its sponsors, affiliates, or subsidiaries. Open minds encouraged, sense of humor recommended. If any off-color comments were made, we're sorry.
Hi, this is Dale Lear, designer of TRS-80 Color Baseball, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
This is CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer. It's time to drop your socks, grab your real-time clocks, and let's rock.
CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, 'cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world.
Good morning, everybody. It's another CoCoTALK, the leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer. We've got a special show for you today. We're going to go around the world and talk to a lot of people, and they're from other countries.
CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, 'cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world.
Okay, great. I felt like regular Howard Stern there. Hit the post there on the intro.
Mama Booey.
WNBC coming at you live. We've got a fantastic show for you today, and we've got all sorts of great panelists and people in the live chat. It's just overwhelming, and let's just quit the show now. Should we, Nick Marotta? Let's just stop it. It's going to be downhill from here.
Alan Murphy points out that anybody outside of Texas is from another country, so
That's true. That's true. Well, everything is bigger in Texas, including
ego, apparently.
Yeah.
You go there and you go here
Glad
and you go
somebody said
everywhere
it.
around the world.
Well, I think we've got a special guest. You can probably see a new face up there on the panel. I think we'll go ahead and talk to our regulars, and then loop around, and we'll hear from our special guest today. Speaking of international and people from other countries, they tell me that Canada is one of those other countries, and we know him, we love him. He develops stuff for OS9. His name is L. Curtis Boyle. How are you,
Hello,
L?
everyone. My sled dogs are out back there. They're basking in the sun for summer here. So
Yes, so great to have you again. Of course, a big contributor to the show, as well as all the coding you're doing for ease of use.
and some special stuff to show later in the show. That's a teaser, folks.
All right.
Cool.
Foreshadowing.
And I don't know where I'm hearing this, but ease of use beta 6 I think is coming soon. Or maybe that's
That's a
what
few months away yet, but it's coming. Yeah.
I have about
Well, see,
5.1.
At least I'm not lying, It's a little wishful thinking on my part, but it is certainly coming soon. David O'Connor from Down Under, you know a lot about music, and you've really nailed it with this CoCo 3 inside of a TRS-80 box. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, actually. Looking forward to a good show today, and we've got lots of toys and things to show off today, so should be a good one.
Great. Well, you know him as our resident Apple guy. He's got an Apple there in the background. And after Windows crashed on me last night, I was definitely thinking of going over to the Apple side. How are you doing, Mark? And how's your Apple doing?
My Apple is doing great. It's running. I wouldn't say anything. Oh, it's Alien Downpour. That's a newer game for the Apple II. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Great to have you. A guy who has a garage and a lot of stuff in it. You know him. He's wearing a Radio Shack t-shirt, just in case you weren't sure. But it's really him. It's Ron Delvo.
Yeah, it's Ron Delvo from Ron's Garage. I also have Delvo Observatory, where I look at the heavens and post them on Facebook sometime when you get a chance. Delvo Observatory, check it out. It's a little commercial.
I like the way you describe that. Look at the heavens. It's so peaceful.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. Psalm 19.
Yes.
It is peaceful. Next on our panel, Rick Euland. How are you doing, Rick?
Oh, fairly well. And as an expat from Texas, I stand by ready to help translate if needed.
Y'all welcome.
Okay.
All y'all welcome. That includes more than one person.
Oh, y'all.
Great. And a gentleman who also knows a few things about music. We've got a very musical panel. It's Brian Schubring. And Brian, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing just ducky in that. Got showing my background here. It kind of emphasize what a woman's like. Whole bunch of knobs with lots of functions, and you can
Knobs and
never figure it out.
That's all right. Well, Simon's not on the panel to giggle at the word knob, but we'll just move.
We'll have to do it for him then.
But I don't have a good segue from that one. But a guy who just who's really taken the high score challenge to a new level, and it's been the talk of the community. Nick Marotta from Canada.
Glad to be here. Thank you. Yes, I'm very pleased with the reception that the GameON challenge has taken. It's been a lot of fun to be part of that. And I thank you guys for allowing me to head that up.
Okay.
Segment.
And just since I was so enraptured with hitting the post in my intro, I did not mention what was the game last week, just for people that don't know, Nick.
Okay, I almost said next week's game by accident. The game this past week was CashMan.
That's right. So we're going to talk about CashMan a little bit later and the results, and then maybe we'll find out when the next week's game is. If Nick
too many
doesn't.
games in my head right now. There's not enough room.
I think next week's game is next week.
That's right. Great. Well, as a proud owner of a Joey which has no less than 2 toggle switches, and an owner of a switcheroo which has no less than 1 toggle switch, I can't wait till your next toggle switch project. It's Jason the CoCo Man Reichert.
Howdy, howdy. Yes. Hey, next toggle switch project. I'll just say stay tuned. And I'd also like to welcome everyone to CoCoTALK, the new home of the Nick Marotta Dance Party, featuring David Ladd and the Turn Signal Orchestra.
That's awesome.
Sounds blinky.
And I've got my Diet Dr. Pepper, and we'll go ahead and crack it open.
Mix it with some water.
Well,
I've got some.
Hey,
well,
he's onto it.
Thanks for being on the show, Jason. We've got a couple of game programmers on the panel, including our next guest, who you know him from Timberman, which you can buy right now on itch.io. We'll post that on the chat. It's Paul Thayer.
Yay.
Hey.
You're muted, Paul. There you go.
How you doing, guys?
Holly T.
Stop filming him.
Great. Well, Paul, let us know. Do you have any big news we should save time for? Any segments?
Nope. I'm just hanging out.
Just hanging out. That's great.
Yep.
Well, great to have
Taking
you
a break
here.
from Digger 3 testing, I think.
A little bit.
Well, once we get to this part of the panel, we sometimes need a little bit of a pick-me-up. And there's no better person to do that than a guy who's excited about just about everything. He knows about floppies, whatever they are. It's David Ladd.
Hello, everyone. I am glad to see everybody's here, and we've got a full crowd. Hello, Nick. I'm glad to see that you've arranged to be here today, even though it's in the middle of the night for you. Are you ready, Nick? Are you ready? I'm ready. It's going to be a great fun day. Yes, it is. Let's move on to you, Nick.
David Smith.
As usual, a very subdued Mr. David Ladd.
Was that a finger slap?
I don't know.
Nick's speechless.
Well, the guy...
The intro for Nick's already been done by David, so you might as well just have Nick say hi at this point.
Well, I can intro. Nick Marentes is a guy he's against technology until he's for it. He was against running water and I think electricity. Felt there was no market for it, but then he came around, just like the 6309 and someday OS 9. It's Nick Marentes.
Hey, everyone. How you going? I just woke up.
Like literally just again now?
Pretty well.
How could you see to the David Ladd segment, you know?
Hearing David, that woke me up. Makes me want to leave.
I'm going to put that on my phone for my alarm in the morning.
Are you dreaming of your next game?
Hey, I'm working on another game now, but
all right.
Nothing to announce just yet.
He's working on it right now as we talk.
Does it have the word COVID in it?
No.
Does it have the word vaccine in it? No.
No.
Okay.
No.
Definitely not.
Does it have the letters SG in it?
No, it doesn't.
Does it have the word
Maybe it
Mode 3 in it?
Are we
y'all can wait for
secret
next
now?
week's announcement. That's what I
Okay.
can say.
The man is not ready to share this information.
No, I'm not ready.
The reason our program went 4 hours is because we were guessing the next game.
Yeah,
That's right.
Does it have a load A in it?
Yes, well, that's a good segment because a guy who knows a lot about Load A and Deck B and all sorts of CPUs and Motorola and cycles and things like of that nature is James Diffendaffer. Are you out there, James?
I am out here and I am just sipping on gin and juice with my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
Wow.
May not be the best
debugging
place for
assembly.
All right. Well, and we'll be coming back to you, James, for different rap quotes throughout the evening here. Please.
I call you James Diffendaffer.
Well, I don't know if our other guest, I was going to say our final guest, but we have a special guest. But our regular panelist, last but not least, I don't know how many rap lyrics he knows, but he certainly knows a lot about game development and Lode Runner. He's the maker of Digger 1, 2, and 3. It's Chet Simpson.
What's up, everybody?
And he does know a lot of rap lyrics, I have to say.
Yeah, most of them I can't repeat here.
Oh, certainly knows some good rap lyrics.
Yeah, West Coast.
Maybe you can teach Samuel Gimes some of those moves.
It's all gone downhill after you did Jazzy Jeff.
Yes.
I don't think he's gonna want any of my thoughts.
Samuel Gimes is still recovering from all of those bombs going off in that warehouse. We'll have to see if I think he does have some stuff to say though today. Well, with that, I think what do we want to do, Curtis? Want to take a short, commercial break just to clear our heads from the panel?
Yeah, we'll do a bit of a teaser. The next segment after the commercial break here is going to be following our theme. You can see on the bottom of the screen there, CoCo Around the World, and we have a special guest who's up in the upper left corner there, named Peter. And we'll let him introduce himself after we come back from the commercial break, but he's going to show off a SCART CoCo, an official SCART CoCo that Tandy sold in France. So stay tuned.
Well, stay tuned. We'll be right back after these words from CoCo Do.
CoCo Talk will return after these messages.
CoCo 2, c'est le coq champion, des micros il donne le pion. Pour le jeu, il est pas bavard, les études, c'est pas bizarre. L'expansion, il adore ça, les commandes, tu vas voir ça. Notre CoCo est programmable, pour tes cours, c'est bien serviable. CoCo 2 de Radio Shack, ton affaire est dans le sac.
Un ordinateur couleur qui a de la personnalité. Le CoCo 2 de Radio Shack. On solde pour Noël à partir de 149,95.
CoCo 2 de Radio Shack, ton affaire est dans le sac. C'est toi et CoCo 2.
And now, CoCo Thoughts by Samuel Gimes. If you're using your color computer in Quebec and it stops working, is it now a CoCo won't do?
Hi, Ron Delvo, Timberman, CoCo Fest, CoCoTALK.
In a world where RGB produces black and white video, one cable can make a difference. Switcheroo. CoCo3ScartCable.com.
Hey, have you got your CoCo 3 yet? Hi, this is Rick Adams, author of Temple of Ram and Shanghai, and you've tuned into CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer.
What's going on, everybody? Original Gamer Stevie Stroh here, and if you're a fan of vintage computing and retro gaming, then you're going to love our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. There you will find custom designs by Instagram artist Joel M. Adams. You can get I'm a Coconut, CoCoTALK, and other cool video game images on a t-shirt, coffee mug, or mouse pad. So if you love retro, then head on over to the retro swag shop at 8bit256.com today. Tell them the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh sent you.
Radio Shack's store-wide manager's red tag sale is on now. We've slashed prices 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. Save on famous Radio Shack hi-fi, car stereo, radios, toys, TV games, calculators, walkie-talkies, and CB radios. Look for the big red tag. Save like never before on these and literally hundreds of red tag specials. Hurry into Radio Shack today.
Hi, this is Randy Kindig of the Floppy Days podcast. I just love me some CoCo, and nobody covers it better than Steve Strobridge. You're listening to CoCo Talk.
Well, Stevie's at the beach today, so
Oh,
he's no, he's trying to earn a living today, but nobody does cover the CoCo like Steve Stroh bridge, and he might be popping on later in the. I was going to say later in the hour, later in the day.
Did you introduce yourself, Rob? Rob stepped in at the last minute to take care of the show today, so
Everyone,
thank you very much for doing that.
I'm Rob Inman. I'm known as Tandy Color Computer 3, my favorite color computer. On Discord, I encourage you to join us for Discord and chat on all sorts of things. And I had a TRS-80 Color Computer 2 16K, moved up to 64K, and then once I discovered the greatest computer, Nick Marotta, the Tandy Color Computer 3.
I'm nice to you, and you pay back with that.
It was no turning back. I did discover OS 9 and was really amazed by what that was capable of. And so here we are.
OS 9 is cool.
All these years later, I started poking around YouTube and discovered this show. So really happy to be here and with y'all today. Thanks, Nick, for pointing out. I don't necessarily like the spotlight, but I do have my head down here. I probably should say who I am. But
I want you to know it's appreciated, right?
Oh, well, thank you for that, and appreciate all the work that you've been doing, especially making those videos. I know how hard that is, I mean, to do every week. So appreciate you stepping in to kind of do some of that work and keep the show fresh. So
anybody else want to give us some positive feedback while we're doing this?
Yes, you can save your letters of complaint for later. I will.
Nick, you say you need more feedback?
Any other? Oh, here we go. Yes, please.
That's some good feedback right there.
Get a good feedback cancellation going on there.
Great. Well, certainly. Let me acknowledge the people in the chat, if we must, but we must. And we've got Quinn Good, and he's always saying stuff out there. Nimble is out there. Robert Allen Murphy, who has 3 names, just kind of like a serial killer. He's out there.
Wow. Wow.
Interesting.
Well, whenever people get arrested, they give their full name. I don't know. It just
Tell
made
him,
me
stop right there.
Asparagus.
He has a good sense of humor, which is fortunate since I just referred to him that way. Robert, you always do a lot of work on our Discord server. I appreciate you. Curtis, just given the time. Al Hartman from Jersey. Al's worked for all sorts of jobs there related to the TRS-80 and the color computer over the years. And Mark O is on the panel. You know him as our 6502 guy. He translates from 6809 to 6502. And who else we got out there? Alexander Wallace. Is that Todd? That's not Todd Wallace. That's Alexander Wallace.
Oh, it's different person.
Different person entirely.
Alexander's in Mexico. Anyway.
Oh, great. Well, that's the theme of the show, CoCo Around the World, to welcome Alexander. Sadly, we have Retro Innovations, who is always sitting under the bridge, trolling us mercilessly. And he is here. Kevin Holloway is here. Boy, the list goes on. Frodo, who needs some hazard pay, perhaps, after playing Bomb Threat for whatever it was, 72 hours straight, or whatever he did. That was amazing, and I think we have caught up to the live chat. Ken can make it. The manager of, I don't think I'm giving anything away, but he's the manager of Samuel Gines. He's the talent, what do you call it? The agent. Thank you.
Yeah.
And he's, handling Samuel Gines is not an easy task. So we thank you, Ken, for your service. Lantertronics. Welcome. He said, I teach at Georgia Tech. We have vertically integrated project teams, and I have one specifically devoted to old stuff like this called retro futuristic hardware. So thank you, Lantertronics. It sounds like you might have a lot to talk about. Maybe you can join us on the panel later or another time. That's really interesting. Jim Gerrie is out on Facebook, hanging out on Facebook. Dave and Sharon, Mr. Dave 609809 on Discord. TJ Chris, who makes great videos, and lots of them have OS 9. He's got a lot of great computers. He's out there. He's sitting on the patio with CoCoTALK and a hard seltzer. is there any better way to spend a Saturday?
I think if you do watch this program long enough, you do need an adult beverage.
Yes, it will drive you to drink, Chris. So we apologize. And Canadian retro things. I mean, like I said, it's a who's who of the community out there. Lantertronics is saying hello again, and I think Retro Innovations is saying something rude with his ASCII art, but I'm not sure. So we are caught up, and I think since we brought up the panel and the chat and Discord, we should at least look at who is new to Discord. Does anyone want to know who's new to Discord this week?
Yes.
I do.
Yes. Run the list.
Here we go.
Is it me?
We'll find out.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Who's New to Discord This Week. This week, please welcome Monkey69, Kevin. He started with the 16K Model 1, is now working with the Cocoa Pi and learning OS 9, Basic 09, and assembly. Quinn Good is working on repairing and restoring his uncle's Coco 2 from the attic, which has got him into retro computing and collecting. Cargo, the Coco was his childhood PC. 8 Bits in the Basement Peter, he's been into computers and electronics since age 8 and currently owns the official Tandy SCART CoCo. Also a big thanks to Alpin Grace, Boyson Tech, David Ladd, Jim Rye, Paul Fiscarelli, Rob Inman, Terry Steggy, and our patrons for boosting the server. Join us on Discord at discord.cocotalk.live. See y'all on Discord.
Discord.cocotalk.live. We'll see you over there. But without further ado, Curtis, would you like to introduce our next guest? And we'll learn a little bit about Peter Cullen. I would like to point out that Peter Cullen, this is not the voice of Optimus Prime. Also a gentleman named Peter Cullen. I learned that. So, but I would like to know more. Curtis, over to you.
Okay, well, Peter put up a rather interesting video, which we covered on the news segment here, showing us official Tandy SCART CoCo, which I'd never seen before. So I got in contact with him on the YouTube chat, and we kind of went back and forth a bit. And he was a bit busy, I think, the first week. And we asked him to come on the show and kind of show off the computer and kind of, also explain, how he got into computers and how he found the CoCo, because he's relatively new to it. And he's an expat from Ireland who's now living in France. And Peter, if you want to kind of give us a summary of how you got into computers and how you got into the CoCo and stuff, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure, I can. Listen, thanks for having me, guys. But I started, like you say, I started in computers. They weren't retro at the time, when I was about 8 years of age. And I always wanted a computer, always wanted one. But I couldn't have one, because my parents, they wanted that I played sport and all that kind of thing instead. They figured if I had a computer, I wouldn't play sport. So I never played sport anyway, but I loved retro, well, I say retro computers. Now, at the time they were new, but I loved computers. So all my buddies had them. So I used to go to their houses, and I could play a few games on their computers and which and what. And then eventually I ended up getting a second-hand VIC-20. And that was when I was about 11 years of age for Christmas. And it lasted for about a week. And then the TV modulators on the VIC-20 were very, they were flaky as hell. And it packed up after a week. So I had to wait a further 10 months, but then I got a Commodore 64. And I was delighted with that. And I could swap games and all that kind of stuff, which was a big thing at the time. And yeah, I played around with that an awful lot, and then I sold it. I got an Amiga 500, and then I sold that on, and I went into PCs in 93. And that's basically what I was doing with computers from about the age of 8, when I didn't actually have any apart from sheets of paper, trying to draw pictures of what was on the screen, because I figured, you play around with a sheet of paper and a pencil, you had a computer, because I was kind of sad. But yeah, so what I did was I worked in computers for a time. I used to I was working with a company that's closed since, but we used to manufacture RAID systems and storage systems. And then when I moved here to France, I decided that I'd get back in. See, I had always been into electronics and soldering things, and and seeing if I could get things to work, and little stereos and little TV things and all that. But the great thing about retro computers is that they're simple enough at the very base. So I could take them apart, and I could modify them, and I could upgrade them, and I could break them, but then I could fix them again. And I found it to be a great kind of doorway into electronics and stuff like that. So like I say, anyway, I like to look around and get old computers that are preferably broken or not working, and try and bring them back to life. So I decided in doing this, I'd make a few videos and throw them up on YouTube while I was doing it. And that's when you came in, Curtis, because I had bought a CoCo 2 here in France, and I got it. It was really a pitiful amount of money I paid for it. I paid literally nothing for it. The guy was looking for very little, and it was on the site for about 2 months. He was looking for half nothing, and somebody else offered very little for it. And he said, "Yeah, sure, I'll take that amount." I think it was about €14. I think it's really nothing. And the person didn't take it, so I chimed in and I said, "Look, I'll take it from you if you wish." And I got this CoCo, and it's in very good condition, which shows that here in France, I believe, people love their Amstrads. The Amstrad CPC 464 and the 6128 was a big computer here in France. And I think the reason the CoCo I have is in such good condition is that somebody must have gotten it. They used it from time to time type thing, but it was never loved. You know, it was kept in a box, I'm sure is pretty much what happened. But anyway, I made this video on updating it because, being completely a newbie to the CoCo, I know absolutely nothing about them apart from the fact that they existed. And it arrived at my door, and I opened up. I said, "Oh, it's a nice little computer." And I never thought anything of it because a lot of the computers here connect with SCART to TVs. It's the standard here, or it was at least up until HDMI. And I plugged it in. I got the green screen, and I said, "Oh, it looks strange in comparison to computers that I've seen." But yeah, I started playing around with it, and all I could really do was try out a few games that I knew already, so that I could compare them to computers that I know. But an awful lot of stuff wouldn't load for me, and I discovered it was because I only had 16 kilobytes of RAM. So I said, okay. I looked for a few games that should load with 16 kilobytes of RAM, and they wouldn't load because I didn't have extended basic 1.1. So I said, okay, I'll have to do something about that. So I had a look around on the internet, and somebody offered to program a ROM chip for me for, I think they wanted $50 or something. I said, yeah, sure, I'll get back to you. Yeah, that's fine. And I decided what I'd do instead was I buy a ROM programmer, because it's cheaper to program the thing yourself if you can. So I managed to program the ROM chip, and I managed to change out the memory. And I said I'd make a video about it while I was doing it. And it's not a fantastic video, I'll be honest, it's not fantastic, but it's a video. And you saw it, Curtis, and you were interested in it. And you said, you asked me would I like to come on the show, and here I am with my CoCo behind me. But yeah, no, that's my story kind of from birth up until now in 3 minutes. So yeah, that's me. And like I say, I don't know if you guys are surely familiar with SCART sockets and stuff like that. You are, surely. You've seen them.
Yeah, some of the adapters we sell for CoCo 3s to get color. Actually, Jason Riker can contest to this because he makes them. Actually use SCART to get the signal across to get the artifacting colors to work.
Yes, so the SCART cable can work in 2 ways. And for the Xbox and some of the more modern consoles, it does, because I've actually got a SCART connector from an Xbox here. This is one that does composite and stereo sound to SCART. And what that does, in fact, is you've got all your 21 pins here. There's only, when you're using composite, only pin 20 is being used. And SCART is kind of 2 systems in one. You've got your sound, and you've also got your composite pin 20, which will provide a composite color signal to a TV. But for true SCART to work, you need to have your synchronous signal on pin 20, and then you've got the 3 other pins, the red, green, and blue pin, and you've also got to provide a voltage to pin 16 in order to let the television know that you want to use red, green, blue SCART. Otherwise, it'll default over to composite. So with an awful lot of systems, like if I didn't get a cable for this with it, and I tried to make up a cable, in many cases you could end up wiring up everything just right, plugging it in, but you get a black and white image on screen, because SCART cable or SCART connectors are a little bit finicky that way, a little bit funny that way. But yeah, there you go. That's what I can tell you about SCART. But like I say, you wanted to see the image quality of the computer I have here. So I tried to set up a little webcam here so that you could see, maybe if that'll switch. There you go. I've got Phantom Slayer running on it.
Looks good.
Just that you can have a look at. But,
yeah, it's a nice clean signal. I mean, for us used to NTSC RF, back when the CoCo 1 and 2 came out here, it was all fuzzy and messy, especially when back then you were trying to tune it in on channel 3 and 4 basically, and you had interference sometimes from local TV stations, so it looked like absolute crap. So that looks like really clean and nice.
Yeah, no, I'm fully aware of that, because we had the same thing in Ireland. That was the way it was with any of the systems we had, Commodore 64 and all that, was through RF on on the TV, and we ended up with pretty much the same thing. It was a kind of a signal that you could nearly see the other TV stations through. That kind of way, you had bars rolling down the screen sometimes, and it was a little bit snowy, or it was a little bit off. But it's true that with SCART, you plug it in, you've got a crystal clear image. And yeah, this CoCo, it came out of the factory with SCART as it is, because that's the way they were done here in France. Actually, it's not a CCAM system. France uses CCAM, or did use CCAM, as the US uses NTSC, and most of Europe uses PAL. France was using CCAM. It was their own signal carrier, if you like. It had many things in common with PAL, but apparently the way that it dealt with its color signal was quite different. So this actual system, though, I believe is PAL, although it's for the French market, because I've also got just as an interesting little one that you may or may not be aware of, the Atari 2600. In America, you've got 124 colors on screen when you're playing any of the games on the Atari 2600, one that came out back in the late 70s. In most European countries, you've got 104 colors, I believe, because the TIA chip was modified, or not modified, it was redesigned by Atari so that it could be used for NTSC or for PAL. But when they saw that the French market was going to be very small, they decided they weren't going to redesign a new chip for CCAM. So what they did was they modified the console that it could take either the NTSC chip or the PAL chip and convert everything to CCAM. So there was an awful lot of extra resistors, logic chips, a few capacitors and stuff like that, extra put on the French version. But what you ended up with was, instead of having your 124 colors or your 104 colors, you ended up with just 8 colors on screen. And the colors that they didn't really pick them. I don't know how they came up with what colors they were going to use, but the colors that they ended up with were horrific. They looked really bad. So yeah, I think what they did was they were using a black and white signal, and they took different levels of gray and assigned the color to each level of gray to come up with their 8 colors on screen. So you had, the reason for that was there was a law in the 80s here in France that said any device that connects to a TV set has to, or here in France at least, has to use CCAM, because the French wanted CCAM to be the standard, and that was it. So Atari weren't allowed to sell a system that looked nice and worked well here in France. They had to adapt it to the CCAM. So it's just a kind of an offshot that the French ended up with some systems that weren't great. And it seems that they ended up with other systems like this one here that gave a beautiful crystal clear picture on screen in comparison to what most of ye had in the US and what the rest of Europe had, really, to be honest, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much all I know about TV signals and that kind of thing. I know from watching the news here on this show 2 weeks ago that that system is on the inside is very, very different in comparison to what you have. The layout is different, and there's extra circuitry in there as well. And I believe that must be for encoding the red, green, blue side of things. It must be, because otherwise you just have your RF modulator. And I think the way they work, you've got a composite signal or something goes into the RF modulator, then it's modulated and spat out to television. Whereas in this guy, I don't even think there's well, there must be some form of composite signal or something in there, I suppose. But I don't know exactly how it works. I mean, I like electronics in that I'll take a soldering iron and I'll put a resistor on a chip and put a blob of solder on and see that it doesn't blow up. But I can read a schematic reasonably well. But when it comes to how something works in relation to something else, and what we can change things for to obtain a certain result or whatever, I got to admit, I wouldn't be fantastic. You know, I wouldn't be. You wouldn't want to have me defusing a bomb. I'll put it that way.
I got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
What does this machine look like? Is there somewhere we can see it? And
well, we're actually going to be bringing up the pictures here shortly.
Okay.
Yeah, I've taken. I sent Curtis there a week or two ago. Well, I didn't. I put them on my drive there. They're available to pretty much anyone. But I took a number of photos of the interior and exterior of the system. So I think I pretty much covered everything. And that way you can have a look at the layout, at the chips that are in it, the keyboard that's in it, because it's actually a ZERTY keyboard that's on it. It's not a QWERTY keyboard. It's laid out for the French market. And that way you can compare. You can look even down to the plastics. There's moldings on the inside of the plastics. There's some stamps and some numbers and stuff like that. And I thought you might be interested maybe to compare that with what you have and see, is it in some way different at that level as well. Now, I know that this particular system was made in Korea, and there was an awful lot of CoCos that were made in Korea, because they were made in the US for a time, and then I think the fabrication moved to Korea.
Yeah, and I think it very briefly moved back to the US right at the end of the CoCo 3's life too. But yeah.
Okay, well, all I know is that particular one is definitely a Korean model. So I don't see why they changed plastics and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure, I'm sure everything is the same apart from the PCB and the power supply, I suppose, as well, because the power supply is a 220-volt power supply. So it would have been the same as for the rest of Europe. We've got the same power right across Europe. That, as far as I know, anyway, we have different type plugs in different countries, but we've got the same power standard, And so yeah, no, I took a few photos that you could have a look at. So I took them in as high a resolution as I could, so you can zoom right down in and read the labels on the chips and all that kind of stuff. I figured if you're interested in the system, because I'll be honest, to me, when I got it, I thought they were two a penny. I didn't think that it was anything special as such, being a SCART version, But when I found out that it was, I said, well, I'd try and contribute something back to you guys, and I take a few photos.
And Rob, I believe you still have the pictures queued up, which we can kind of go over, and Peter can talk about certain things.
Yeah, actually,
case, etc.
Peter uploaded them to the Google Drive, so I have them all queued. If you whenever you want to look at them.
Is the 26 part number different than ours?
For the processor, you mean?
No, the number on the back of the, on the bottom of the
product number, you mean?
Yeah, product number.
I think they did. They added a 5 or something at the beginning or at the end of a part number.
Yeah, as we go through the pictures, actually, we can point that out, and you can point out some of the other things there too.
There was definitely a digit added to show that it was made for either the European market or for a SCART system.
Let me pull up the pictures then.
And then we can have Peter kind of describe them, and if anybody has any questions, they can throw them at Peter while we're going through the pictures.
I think this is it. Let's see. Are you seeing this?
Yep.
Yeah. There
Okay.
we are.
Is it big enough?
If you want to zoom in a little, I don't know. It's just you guys, like I say, would know an awful lot more about this stuff than I would, because I know that the board is I know that the board is laid out a little different.
Foxy's mum came into the garden.
I'm getting some sound here. Is that who's the sound coming from? Is that me?
I'm not sure, but I'm hearing it too. So there's
Yeah, me too. So it sounds like a printer in the background too.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. If you can go on mute, or mute your YouTube or whatever.
So this here's the main motherboard, and you can see it's a bit of a different shape than we're used to, and you can also see the connectors on the back is a bit different.
Oh, hold on.
Stream has the Alps. I think,
Yep. Hold on. I just noticed that. I thought it was going to be displayed, but this works. This works. Go ahead, Curtis.
Oh, just can say you can see from the motherboard here, it is a bit of a different design than we're used to on the NTSC models, and I think a bit different than the PAL ones too.
There's no can.
Yeah, I know from seeing some pictures of American models, I know that there's a heatsink over on the left-hand side of the board. And on the American one, in many cases, it looks like it was crushed or was hit by a hammer. The fins on it are kind of deformed, or the shape is a little different, I don't know. But that part of the board juts out an awful lot more to the left. And on the version I have here, there's that little heatsink is also there, but it doesn't jut out quite so far. I don't know if you can see that there down on the bottom left-hand side of the board, just under the power supply, where would it be just under the power supply?
Can you blow that up a bit? There's obviously no RF modulator at all there either, by the looks of it.
No, there's I believe that down in the bottom left-hand side of the PCB there itself, of the main board, there's a lot of resistors. There's a lot of a couple of little logic chips and stuff, and I believe that that's where any of the RGB decoding is done for the SCART signal. So I think they're using some kind of resistor ladder setup or something like that. But then again, I don't know for sure.
What are we looking at?
What I have on the screen in front of me isn't a picture. I don't know what I have on the screen in front.
Yeah, I've got a weird, long, skinny thing
seeing
showing
some
up
sort
on
of
my screen.
window.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just locally. The YouTube stream is fine.
Amazon
Exactly.
Music. The browser. It's a browser.
It's a narrow strip of a browser.
Yeah.
Yeah, your share is different from what's going out on the stream.
Hold on.
Not
Yes.
sure.
I can do it this way.
Weird.
There.
There we go.
There we go.
That's better. Yep, got it now.
Yeah, keep going. Everyone can see it except the panel.
Okay.
But
so
now you guys
also,
can.
Also, you can see there just above the large capacitors there on the left-hand side of the board, there's a small little white connect or a small little black connector with a white base on it. That is the part that connects to the SCART cable. It's like an SVHS type socket, and it connects to the SCART cable. And yeah, that's instead of the RCA jack on the TV modulator. That's what's in place of it. It actually occupies the same hole that was drilled in the plastic.
It's like an S-video.
It is like an S-video, but S-video would generally only have four holes in it, like to take your 2 grounds and your Luma and what's the other one? There's another Luma.
Chroma. Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. This one here has more because it's taken the red, green, blue, the sync. It's also given a 5-volt, I think as well, which is to do with the pin 16, like I tried to explain there earlier, to set the television into red, green, blue SCART mode. And I think there's 8. I think there's 7 or 8. There's 7 or 8 little pins that plug into it. Actually, among the photos there, I sent a picture of the pinout as well for that, and I also put up a SCART pinout as well to show what corresponds to what. But
so this bottom left corner of the board is basically well, a dozen transistors and resistor array to hand create the signal instead of using like a RF modulator thing in a can that did everything for us, right? Is that what I'm looking at?
That's what it appears to be, yeah. And I would imagine that's exactly what it is, because ye don't have that.
Do they
This
have a
doesn't have a modulator, so I suppose there is straight swap.
Does they have a salt chip?
Modulator for this setup?
There's a dozen
I would
transistors
imagine.
down there. Yeah, they're doing something by hand.
And I know I say a resistor ladder setup. This is my very limited knowledge, because I know that for the Raspberry Pi, there's like a VGA connector available for the GPIO pins on the Raspberry Pi, and that uses resistor ladders in order to generate a red, green, and blue signal to go out to the VGA monitor. So that's just my my supposition, I suppose. I'm just that's the way I would try to explain it. But like I say, personally, I really know very little. I really know very little about it, apart from the fact that it's there.
Okay.
And RF modulator isn't.
Is there a salt chip there?
I think the salt chip is the one on the bottom left-hand side, furthest most chip on the left-hand side. No. Just beside the 68472.
Yeah, right beside the VDG there. The actual chip on the bottom.
Yeah, if you just
right
there, that one. I believe that's the salt chip.
It's a Hitachi chip.
I believe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, should we go to the? There's
go to the next picture. We'll kind of discuss as we go here.
Oh, there you go.
There's the
there
chip we're talking about.
Close up of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the I said I'd do a close up of that. If it surely means something to some of you, if you wish to have a look and study it in some way, I don't know. But there's whatever is there within.
Yeah, they'd be hand building it. I was just going to say they're hand building analog signals right there with transistors and resistors.
There's a couple of fairly hefty output transistors there too. 2SC2314. They're almost power transistors, but they haven't got heat sinks on them. So that might be something to do with the. It's definitely a full-on discrete RGB. That's neat.
Okay, next photo.
Okay.
Hey Peter, what sort of camera did you use on these? They're really nice.
That's actually it's my daughter's camera. She has a I don't even know what the name of it is. It's a Chinese camera. It's I couldn't tell you what the name of it is. I couldn't tell you.
It's beautiful pictures.
Yeah, they are really nice.
Yeah, so there you go. I think there was a D printed down here in the bottom right hand side of the plastics. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's but I said maybe you might be interested in just, as I know for a lot of old systems, there's a lot of talk on comparisons of very, very small things, minor things that can be quite interesting. So I figured I'd take a picture of pretty much everything I could. And
thanks for doing that. Actually, these pictures are great, and Mark has posted the link in the YouTube chat so people can actually zoom them up on their own systems and take a really close look.
I'm glad to be able to give something back, and if I've got something that interests people, I'm happy to share it.
No, this is unique. This is good.
And here you can see they spell the word color right, so that's always good too.
Color.
Oh yeah, nice. I want one of those badges.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah. Now that's just I read somewhere that the frequency of the crystal oscillator there on this board is different than on on some of the other ones. Now I don't know if that's true or not, but I said I'd just make a point of taking a photo of that, so maybe again it may be of interest. I don't know.
Yeah, for people here that are familiar with PAL CoCos, is that the same frequency or is that different than PAL as well?
That's it's 14.23. The PAL, that's obviously you've got to divide that down to get the chroma signal. The chroma signal in Australia is 4.43 megahertz. That's PAL. So 14.23 would have to be divided down evenly to get 4.43 if 4.43 is the same chroma frequency. But I'm not sure what CCAM is. I think it is similar frequency, but I think the phase relationship is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know NTSC is, what is it? We use a 14.138 or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, and that
now.
divides down to 3.58. I think is the chroma frequency for NTSC.
And that's socketed there, isn't it?
The chip there on the side is socketed, yeah.
Yep.
I like that the crystal says sunny on it.
Are most of these chips socketed?
As I remember, I know the memory chips are definitely socketed. That chip there is, as is the ROM chip. When I say the ROM, I mean for the basic, for color basic 1.3. That chip is also socketed. I, off the top of my head, I can't tell you without seeing the photos, but I'm sure we'll find out in
we'll find out as
the
we go
next
through
photo if they're socketed or not. So I'd love to be able to say, oh yes, they're all socketed. But honestly, I don't remember. This is the back of the keyboard. There's a number on, there's two numbers on it. So I said, there we go. You may well be interested in that. So that's the reason I took that photo. There you go. Like I say, it's an AZERTY keyboard. So that's the way any of the official French keyboards would be. They'd be AZERTY.
yeah,
But there is actually a difference with the CoCo, because usually here in France, to get the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the top of the keyboard, you would have to press Shift and press 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 to get the numbers. Whereas on any other keyboard, you press the number without having to get Shift. And in order to get like the hyphens or any of that kind of thing, you would press Shift and press the number you want for it. But it's backwards in France. But on this particular on this particular computer, on the CoCo 2 here, it's an AZERTY layout, but the difference is if you wish to type 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, you don't need to press Shift, and it's missing a lot of the French symbols as well, like the little E's with the accents on them, and those kind of French language signals are missing off the board. So I think actually that the membrane is what's different. There's nothing changed in the ROM or any of that to read the keyboard differently. It's just the membrane is laid out differently as well.
So they rewired the keyboard internally to match the
pretty
existing
much,
ROM.
yeah, they've pretty much rewired the keyboard in order to put A where Q should be and things like that. It's just the membrane. I'm sure if I change the membrane out, I go back to a standard keyboard. For,
I do notice like some of the symbols are in different places. Like the question mark is not in the same spot we're used to either. So.
Oh, is that changed? Okay.
Oh, is it not next to the Shift? Oh, it's not either. The plus is next to the Shift. Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's a few differences in there besides the letters themselves. The numbers are basically the same, but yeah, the bottom row there on the right hand side is rearranged from what we're used to.
I would imagine it's laid out the way a regular French keyboard is laid out.
That really confused
looking
me.
at my PC keyboard here, it's pretty much the same layout for the question mark and a few of the other symbols like that. But like I say, generally in France, if you want to type on the top row of keys there to type 128, for example, you wouldn't just press 128. You'd have to press Shift and press 128. In other ways, you'd end up with symbols on your screen. You know?
Nick Marotta, have you seen a CoCo keyboard like the official Quebec French one? Did they use an AZERTY, or did they use QWERTY?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure all of them are QWERTY.
Okay.
I've never seen an AZERTY keyboard in person.
Neither have I, no.
I'm looking at this, and there's two things going on because the CoCo keyboard is a teletype keyboard, not a typewriter keyboard. So the top row is all wrong anyway. And so by making the top row right as far as the keycaps they had, maybe they had to move some of the punctuation in the bottom just to, because they've only got the 2 layers on the mica, the folded plastic matrix thing.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe
So
it was
sort
a
of makes
limitation of
sense.
what, yeah.
But I remember because I
Limitation.
learned to type on a teletype. So when I moved to the CoCo, it was great. Everything was in the right spot. And then when I got my former job and I had to type on a regular keyboard all day, it wasn't good.
Who thought we'd get so much talk out of a keyboard?
Okay, so yeah, no, that's the keyboard, quite obviously sitting into where it sits on the
Yeah, and that pretty well
assembled
matches.
back together. I mean, there's absolutely nothing new there. I don't think that you wouldn't have seen before.
At least we didn't get somebody coming in saying I've got a Dvorak keyboard on my.
Oh, there we go. There's the
CoCo.
serial number.
Serial number.
Yeah.
And the
There's your
model number,
serial
which has
number.
that 3-digit prefix. That's different.
That's it. There's either the,
Yeah, stay on that one for a bit, Rob. So you got 265. We just have 26, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
And that's
yeah.
whether it's Australia, Canada, the US, we all had 26. So this is unique to France, I think.
Yeah, it's the 5 has been added in, and I think there was another model number as well. I'm not 100% sure, but I think there was, or maybe it's just the fact that there was also a 3134B as well that that shared the same 265 prefix.
Yeah, that would be the true lowercase VDG. Also, it says, if you notice here under where it says Tier City Color Computer 2, it says Paratel version. What is Paratel exactly?
Oh, I was just going to ask the same question.
Paratel is what the French called SCART.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they call it, because when I was here in the beginning, I went looking for a SCART connector, and I was in the shop speaking my best French after being here about a week and a half. And nobody knew what I was talking about when I was saying SCART to them. So, well, they do. I mean, there are people who do, because it's pretty much well known now. But at the time when I was in the shop, that was how I learned the word Paratel, because that's what they call it here. It's just a direct substitute of a word.
It says Tandy Computer Center, CENTRE.
Yeah, that's also proper spelling. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Oh, yeah, just too. That's good.
Yeah,
it's good. It's excellent.
Yeah.
They did this. It's really interesting
this
that
one
they did all
passed
this.
the international spell check. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's really interesting that they did this for the French version, but they didn't do it for the Australian versions. You know, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Why did Tandy do that?
You'd have to ask Tandy.
Did somebody say?
Tell me why did Tandy do that?
I don't know if the UK versions and all that, if they spelled color, or if they retained the American COLOR spelling. I don't know.
Also, the serial number is 2 million.
Yeah, I have to guess that's not how many they sold in France. I'd have to guess they started the serial numbers for the Paratel version at 2 million.
Yeah, the regular color computer's hundreds of thousands, right?
Yeah. We're not sure, because they kept restarting the numbers depending on certain submodels like the A and the B, and the CoCo 2 started over, and I think the CoCo 1, some of the different board revisions might have started over too, like the F board, so it's hard to tell.
Well, I know, but we've never had a million marker.
Didn't the CoCo 3 have millions?
I don't think so.
I don't have one handy to look at the moment, so
I don't know.
I'd have to check.
All right, do you want to keep going, Curtis?
Yeah, next one.
Yeah, that's it together.
I mean, it looks like the case and the keyboard, aside from the layout of the keys, looks to be identical to what we're used to in the North American and Australian, UK versions.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I believe it's just the membrane is different, and they just swap the keys around.
Yeah,
they're exactly the same.
It would be neat to see the back end.
Oh, that's coming up.
It says Radio Shack. That's interesting.
That's right. So these are the chips I removed when I was doing the upgrades. There's the Tandy Color Basic 1.3 chip there on top, and the 2 memory chips that I removed are two 8K chips. What are they? They're 8, 14, 16s. So they were the original chips that came from the factory red.
Yeah, those are like the 4464s we knew. Now I did notice these are 120 nanosecond. I think most of the North American ones were 150, weren't they?
Good question.
I know the CoCo 3 had to go to 120s because if you had 150s, and then some early upgrades did have that, they had problems where some of the hardware scrolling stuff wouldn't work because it wasn't fast enough to keep up. So it'd start crapping out and doing weird stuff. But I'm surprised that the CoCo 2s, which didn't need the extra speed, actually were selling with 120s here in France.
Tandy would put in anything that was cheap that week, so.
Oh, okay.
Maybe this was a deal.
That answers it.
It's true, because that was the reason I believe that they had that little satellite board as well, because the upgrade on this unit could be done either by swapping those two 8K chips out for two 32K chips, or there was also a little daughter board, or a little satellite board that had 8 6665 chips, I think they were. And that could be slotted in. And I believe the reason they had the 2 ways of doing an upgrade was whichever was the cheapest at the time was the way they would go, whichever set of chips were cheaper.
Yeah, we had that on our later model CoCo 2s here too. They had the same little daughter board with the 841 64s versus the 244 64s.
Okay. So yeah, no, but that's what I've read. What I read is what I read. That's all I know. If the person writing it was wrong, I'm wrong.
Yeah. Robert Murphy's chiming in on the chat too, and he said, yeah, the CoCo 1 and 2s were 150 nanoseconds here. And Mitsu 150 nanoseconds could have problems with the Game 86 talking about the CoCo 3 that I was discussing, but NEC 150s would fix that. So there were some timing issues that you know, just had to swap the chips. And most upgrade manufacturers of the CoCo 3 eventually just went to 120s.
I wonder, was warranty the same as in the States? It says on the CoCo Facebook thing, the TRS-80 CoCos originally came with warranty of 3 months.
Yeah, 90 days. Yeah.
Totally ironic considering most of them have lasted 30 years or more.
Next slide, please, Rob.
I wonder how many of you guys have had to take your CoCo into Shack because it broke. I never have.
I never did.
No,
I
my
did
original
once.
one's still working fine.
So
what are we looking at here?
This is just a picture of a SCART plug on the television. I said, look, I said, I'd be as thorough as I possibly could. And I said, I'm sure you've seen it before. I said, look, this is what a SCART connector looks like. I'm sure everyone's seen one before. But yeah, just to be thorough.
Okay. Cool.
In the late 80s and early 90s, I actually used to work as a TV repair tech, and they were trying to make SCART popular in Australia, but they never really succeeded. And we had some TVs that had SCART connectors, but nobody ever used them because they didn't know what they did. So we knew what they did because we had to service them. So I knew the ins and outs of SCART connectors, but that's about as far as it got in Australia.
Okay, is this just
that's interesting because I didn't yet. I know it's a big thing here in Europe, but I say it's a big thing. Back in the 90s, every TV you bought, well, I know in Ireland anyway, and they had SCART connectors on them standard. That was one of the things. Even if you didn't have the video ports, you had the SCART. But this here is just a picture of the plug that plugs into the back of the CoCo. It's got the 7 pins, like I was saying.
Yeah.
And it's like a little S-video connector, but like I say, it's got 3 extra pins on it. That's
yeah, for your RGB.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So you've got your red, green, blue. You've got your ground. You've got your sync signal, and you've also got a voltage there. So, and I believe one of the pins is non-connected or unused. And yeah, there's actually the way it works. There needs to be a voltage of 12 volts sent to pin 8 in order to tell the television that it's a format of 4:3 and not widescreen. And yeah, that's a 12 volt signal. It's quite high. And then the one to enable the red, green, blue SCART on pin 16 is 1.5 volts, in or around 1.5 volts or a little higher. And that's why they've got these extra pins. But I think the way they did it on this, they just sent through a 12 volt signal that went direct to pin 8 to make it the right TV format. And then there was a 330 ohm resistor between pin 8 and pin 16 in order to bring it down to the correct voltage for pin 16 to enable SCART. But that's pretty much the connector that plugs into the back of it. That plugs into the back of it. And that there is the inside of the top cover of the case. Again, there's a few little bits of lettering and stuff there printed on the top right there, kind of on the top left or mid left. There's something says number 1, or I'm not sure. There's something there anyway printed in there. So I thought that may be of interest to you. But again, like I say, it's possibly the same as any of the others. Oh, if you want to go back to the image just before, there's one interesting one actually. I don't know how interesting it is, but there's one thing on the image just before. You see there where the TV selector would be on the American version. They actually glued a little piece of plastic
Oh yeah, right.
just to cover. So it's probably exactly the same mold that was used as was used for the American versions, but it's got a little piece of plastic. It looks like it's molded in, but when you open the case, you can see there's some glue that's slightly yellowed, and that's what's holding in that little piece of plastic just to cover that little selector switch for channel 3 and 4.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's that. And yeah, that's just with the QC passed label and with the warranty seal that's after being punctured.
Now, was that punctured before you had it, or
today.
did you puncture it to do the upgrade?
No, I'm the culprit. I'm the one that punctured. Yeah, that was me. It survived. I'm sure a good 35 years until I came along with my Phillips head screwdriver and punctured it. Yeah, that's that.
All right, out of warranty.
That's the back of the.
Now, is that one you can zoom up a bit, Rob? Or
so I don't think so.
Usually, if you double click on the picture there and drive, it'll zoom in.
Look at you.
There you go.
Okay.
If you can just zoom up to show that channel selector where it's kind of blocked out with a hacked on plastic job.
Yeah, I can't zoom in any more than that.
If you press Control Plus, it should zoom in. If it can zoom any further.
I'm just trying not to break the show. So
too late, but anyway.
Too late.
I tried that already, David. It doesn't work in a Google Drive. Like it doesn't
do a print
work.
screen.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing I'm noticing here, didn't the power cable on the North American ones come out the back, not the bottom?
Correct.
So there's a little bit of a block plastic there where the power cable would have come on. You got a much thicker, beefier one coming out of the bottom by the leg.
Probably grounded. Probably 3-wire.
It is, yeah. No, it's a 3-wire cable, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Interesting they put a 3-wire cable because in Australia you're not allowed to do that. If it's double insulated, if it's a plastic case and they call double insulated, you're legally not allowed to put a 3-pin connector on it.
Does SCART need a good ground or something? Do they have some?
No, it might be just something they did.
Well, yeah, no, I know that like many of the computers of the era anyway that we had in Ireland were all 3-cabled.
If you look,
they all were the Commodore 64s, the VIC 20s, I'm not sure about the Spectrum. I'm sure it was, so I'm sure it was part of law at the time that they had to be grounded.
Do you see where the power cable would have come out? It's blocked also.
Yeah. As I was noticing, it's just like the channel select. They kind of hacked in a piece of plastic to kind of fill the case in a little bit.
Cheap way out. Yeah.
Oh, new molds would have been very expensive.
Yeah,
that's
it's
true.
actually quite logical that they did that, really.
I just figured, what Tandy was making tens of thousands of the regular ones. I didn't know if it would be that much of a difference of price to make one new mold for a certain run, but it probably was. And they were cheap, as we all know.
You see, it could have been a bit like Atari's story as well with the 2600, and they figured that the French market wasn't going to be gigantic, so what was the point, If they were only going to sell, I don't know how many, maybe they envisaged selling 20,000 units, I don't know. And maybe they figured we'll try it, but there's no point in spending any real money on it, Could have well been that. But yeah, I think everything else is pretty much standard to what the cables are. This here is the pinout for the TV. That's the one there that we were talking about there.
So this is the connector on the back of the CoCo itself, then.
Yeah.
It goes out to your SCART cable.
That's it. You've got your you've got your cables, you've got your pinholes there, what they give and what they connect to on what pin they connect to on the actual SCART connector. So you've got your green going to SCART 11 and your audio to SCART 6. And yada yada yada.
Was the owner's manual any different, I wonder?
I don't know, because I got it when I got it. There was no manuals or anything with it. It was just I got it with the with a cassette lead, and with the TV lead, the SCART TV lead, and the actual unit itself. But there was nothing else with it.
Yeah, you didn't even get a cassette deck with it. You had to play stuff in through your phone, didn't you, just to load
That's
software
right,
to try it?
And there's one little thing about it. A year or two ago, I made up a little Castuino, using a little Arduino board in order to play audio files from CAS files and all that thing to be directly converted for old computers so that it could play through. It's a little device you can make up from Arduino board, and you connect in an LCD and SD card, and you can pretty much convert on the fly cassette files into audio. But for the CoCo, it doesn't seem to work. The volume isn't high enough. It needs to be very, very high up. So the only way I could get it to work was through my mobile phone. That was it. That was the only way I could get any kind of audio file to work on the CoCo.
Okay, I'll go to the next one, and I did figure out the zoom, so if you want to go back and look at anything, just let me know.
Okay.
So well, now I don't see the zoom. Hold on. Okay, I don't see the zoom on this one. I had zoom, but anyway.
What is the actual SCART connector itself, which, I mean, Jason and a few others are familiar with since they use it in their products.
Yeah, I think the zoom only worked on that other one. Might be a PDF or something. But anyway, I don't know. Here, I can make it full screen.
That's just your SCART pinhead. That's your regular SCART pinhead. There's the SCART connector serves two purposes. It's input and output. That's why it has so many pins. It's got its 20 pins on it, and it's got its shielding. An awful lot of them are ground pins. Then you've got your red, green, and blue. And you've got audio in, audio out. You've got red, green, and blue in, red, green, and blue out. You've got synchronous in and your sync out. And so that way it can be used in videos if you're recording stuff to a video, or if you're playing stuff back, or with DVDs and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of it was a connector that does everything. It's a kind of So that's
it was a very well thought out, designed connector in its day.
Yeah,
and it worked well.
It was for sure, but it's kind of impractical. It's a big bulky thing, and if you want to connect 3 or 4 of them to the back of any TV that can take 3 or 4 of them, it takes up an awful lot of space, Whereas the little RCA connectors and all that kind of thing were very were much easier to handle, much easier to plug in, and I don't know. I just found it. It's just my personal opinion, and I suppose the SCART did give a much higher quality image.
I wanted to mention in chat here, we were talking about the prefix of the part number, the 3-digit. And TGB Chris mentions, he says, I think Frank Durda the fourth mentioned on CompSys Tandy years ago that 2-digit prefixes were really 3-digit ones with the trailing 0 drop. So 26- would have actually been 260. And internally to Tandy, they were 3-digit. Radio Shack did use a few 3-digit prefixes in the US. 273 comes to mind for AC adapters and the like. And it's too bad Richard of Boisentech isn't here, because he worked at Radio Shack doing repairs and stuff for years, and he might actually have some insight on that too. But
oh, interesting.
Anyway, here's a nice shot of the back with the hacked in plastic.
So they selected a connector that was small enough to fit in the slot for an RCA connector, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, there's a,
yeah, you didn't have to change the molding for that. Yeah, you're right.
Doesn't quite line up, but it fits in the slot. So hey, good to go.
No, they stuck a little piece of foam on top just to fill that little hole. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? On some of these, I can zoom in. So.
Can we look at the salt chip that you had at the very start? Just wondering what number that was.
I think that was.
It's like it's near the beginning. I think it was one of the very first.
It's right next to the pepper chip.
Nope.
Not that one. Before.
One before that, I think, wasn't it? Oh, no, before that.
Yeah. So which one did you say was a salt? Because it's not that big one that's next to the video chip.
No, it's next to the blue cap.
Yeah. What number is on that one?
Yeah.
SC7. Yeah, that's the salt chip. So what's that big chip next to the video chip?
Might be some kind of RGB output chip or something.
I was just wondering which one it is. I think it's the one that actually is generating the RGB.
It's a Hitachi chip.
Yeah.
HT61J204P.
I'm gonna look
So,
it up.
Yeah,
I don't know that one. That's a new one on me.
Yeah.
It's,
So I think
given that it's in between the 6847 and the discrete circuitry, I'd say it's
Exactly.
it'll be a decoder chip.
So that's
Yeah,
unique. That's not something you saw on PAL either, then, right?
well,
No.
I don't think so. I haven't. Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't have a PAL CoCo 2 here, so I can't really tell. But
Yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to look it up. So I'll just write the number down. I'll look it up and see what I can find.
yeah, go on.
Okay. Any other?
Because that'd be interesting for a modification for existing CoCo 2s to make a daughter board that clips onto the 6847 and duplicates that RGB circuitry. That's for people who can't afford a CoCo VGA, I guess.
There's an awful lot of discrete circuitry there to duplicate, but I mean, I
There
suppose
is,
if you come
yeah.
up,
So it's not a salt chip then?
No, not that
There is
big
a-
one. The salt's
No.
the one at the top. Yeah.
yeah, the salt's only a little chip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one beside the big blue capacitor in the upper left there, right?
That's
The
it, yeah.
SC7
Yeah.
7F50
Okay.
27P.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look it up and see what I can find.
Cool. Any further questions from the panel? Any further questions from the chat?
Yeah, I think we're. What do you think? Well, people can still ask questions. After as we move forward. I think Peter is going to hang out for a little while.
Yeah, and we've also posted the link to the actual photos, so if people want to peruse them at their own leisure and zoom them up on huge screens and stuff, take a look.
No Rifa chip on these.
No what?
Rifa chip.
Let me get the show back.
Oh, Rifas
on.
are bad. Just ask the Apple people. Rifas are bad.
Okay, hold on. We got the show back.
And a big thank you to Peter for putting those pictures up, for making the original video that spawned this whole segment, and thanks for guesting on the show today.
Well, thanks very much for having me, guys. That's what I'll say. And if you're interested in watching the video, it's out there on YouTube. And there's another couple as well along with it. It's not just CoCo stuff, which is just as well because I don't know much about CoCo stuff. So I mean, the videos would be quite short.
Well, we'll try to help rectify that situation anyway. But
This isn't goodbye, by the way. Come back anytime and hang out with us. And stuff,
Do you
right?
have
Well, I'm going to hang out for the rest of the show anyway. I'll be here in the background. I'll be
And join Discord if you want and hang out with us.
He did. He's on Discord. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Peter, do you have an
there now,
SDC?
so I'm taking a little look around from time to time and gleaning what I can and
Excellent.
see what's what.
So, Ron,
Yeah,
we
very cool.
we did try to get we are trying to get Peter to buy an SDC, and I gave him my best pitch the other night.
Good.
I think you need some joysticks too.
Okay, everyone wants to sell stuff to Peter.
I'm not selling any
I can
joysticks.
do it. But no, I'll have a look and I'll see what I can do. I'm not,
Yeah,
I'm
the
not making
SDC
any
is the one I would
promises,
recommend
but,
because if you
one
want to hit the
must have.
software, that covers pretty well everything. So you don't have to find floppy drives and all that kind of stuff. You can totally get away with an SDC.
The panel that sells products, they're seeing dollar signs right now, Peter. So
if they're looking at me and they're seeing dollar signs, they're going to be very disappointed.
Why do we have commercials?
What about Euro signs? Is that
See whatever signs they want. There's bank account with zero in it.
yes.
So.
Do you accept Bitcoin, Jason?
I
bit of
don't
a
accept
coin?
Bitcoin. I'm looking into accepting magic beans, but no Bitcoin at this time. But
S&H stamps?
Oh, I have one other further question for Peter. He had suggested he doesn't have any joysticks yet, so he was playing some games that he'd found that he was loading before, and I gave him suggestions of a few others. I only got up, I think, to the C's or something like that with a couple extras thrown in. There's a lot to go through. Was there any favorites out of the ones that you tried afterwards?
There was a couple I tried. I liked Phantom Slayer, which I've run there in the background. I like that, but I'm not very good at it. I tried it for a little while. I wasn't fantastic at it. I also liked the other one, Bulldozer, the Arkanoid clone.
Okay, yeah, the one that was originally on the Dragon.
I liked that. I played quite a bit of that. And there was the other one, something to do with Beanstalker. Is that it? The one that's
Yeah,
something
sort of
like
a Lode Runner clone?
Yeah, the Lode Runner clone. I played quite a bit of that as well. I've tried pretty much everything that you recommended to me. I tried what was the other one I tried?
Oh.
Is it Rommel's Revenge, the one in the tanks where you're that I enjoyed as well. That I
So
enjoyed as
Curtis,
well.
did you recommend Lancer to him?
I said I only got up to the C's.
Oh, okay.
And plus, he doesn't have joysticks, so you have to pick games right now that are keyboard based, and that's what I was trying to do.
And that was actually that was actually the thing, because I went out looking on the internet and I couldn't actually find a list. You'll find a list that'll tell you what games are for CoCo 2s or for CoCo 3s, or even sometimes what needs 16K or 64K, but there aren't any lists that'll tell you this will work with keyboards. No, I don't.
My
maybe
list
there
tries
are.
to, though. I have to fix it. There's a few spots I've noticed when I was looking for ones for you. I usually mention like keyboard optional or joysticks not required or type thing, but there's a few that I missed, and probably in the early days when I first started.
Because I had a bit of a look around, but I went kind of trial and error, and I came across very few. There was an awful lot that when I loaded them up, I was just pressing every key on the board and say, okay, that's another one that I can't play. But no, I'll sort out something on joysticks at some stage. I'll sort out something.
Well, there's definitely more keyboard-based games too. I'll now that I know that you're caught up to that first list I sent you, I'll send you a further list.
I'm getting my way through. When I have a little time, that's what I put my time into now. So I know it's a fun system. It's a nice system. I wasn't really aware of it, like I say, and I wouldn't have been aware of it only for I stumbled across it. Like I say, that's what I do. I'll have a look on eBay or any of the other sites, and if people are selling something that's broken or something that's kind of quite a bargain, I'll generally try and snap it up. And that was pretty much the reason I got that system. It was in good condition, so normally I wouldn't touch it, but it was in good condition, and it really was a bargain. I couldn't let it go.
Peter,
but I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did get it, because it's
Dragon
joysticks will work with your CoCo too.
Some of the Tandy 1000 joysticks that use the full-size connector, those will work with the CoCo. And just remember, in Rommel 3D, at least you get to drive a Panzer.
Yeah,
at least you which? Oh, to drive the tank. That's right. Yeah, you do.
Yes, and let's not forget, as Ken points out in the chat, that Nightmare Highway.
Oh yes, you have to get your complimentary copy of Nightmare Highway at cancanmakeit.com.
Yes,
that's free and is also keyboard driven. So there you go.
It's free and yet
it's in your price range.
It's free yet it's not.
Okay, well, I'll make a note. Nightmare Highway.
Peter, do you program much?
Do I program much?
Yeah.
Hello World. Do you know that program?
Yeah. The only one I can do.
I'll bring out my cassette version of Hello World. But no, I don't. I did a little bit when I was younger, a small little bit. It interested me, but again, I didn't really have the time, I'll tell you, to put into it. And I need a program. I don't think I would have been great at it, I'll be honest either, because I think you need to have quite a memory to be able to do it. I would imagine, if you're dealing with thousands of lines of code, you need to know what's where and what's errors. I would imagine I can't really see me being all that great at it. So to be quite honest, I never really got into coding all that much. Anything I did do was in BASIC, and then it was very simple stuff. It was very, like converters for temperature, or currency converters, or what's your name, hello, whoever you are, that kind of kiddie stuff. That's more or less what I got into. What interested me greatly, and what I used to do when I didn't even have to, was DOS on the PCs back in the 90s, back in 92 and 93. Microsoft DOS 5 and 6. And I know it's not programming or anything, but I got a little bit into batch filey stuff and stuff. But again, that was about that's about as far as I ever really got into anything with any kind of a real keyboard and computer kind of feel, that kind of way. To be completely honest, I never really went into programming all that much, and I don't think I would have been all that great at it, Just as hands up, I wouldn't have been great at it.
Well, then you'd really appreciate the SDC, because it has all kinds of stuff that you can get.
Yeah, I've actually since you were talking about it there the other day when I was speaking to you, I watched a few videos on YouTube dealing with it, and I've seen how it functions. You can obviously see the advantage to it, and like I was saying there a while back, if you wanted to go the real route and get drives and all that kind of stuff, you're dealing with older hardware that's kind of unreliable, quite expensive, and even buying discs, they're hard to source now. You never know where they're going to work reliably. And if you only get a handful of them, then you're going to be using them over and over and over again to try different stuff out, and eventually they're going to wear out. So the SDC card in its own way, or the little cartridge, the SDC one, will pay for itself 100 times over.
Oh, yeah.
I'm fully aware of that. No, I'm fully aware of it. And the other thing I liked about it was it's like using a real disk drive. So I see that when you plug it in, you've got all your images on the card, and they're stored out in a directory format. So you type your little dir and hyphen, and you go in. You can mount your image files onto different drives, so you don't actually have to swap images. You've got, I think it's 4 drives, is it, that'll emulate? And you can put an image on each drive, and then you can swap between. So no, I can definitely see the advantage of it. You can create you can also create blank disks, and you can, it's as good as having. It's actually better than having a real
it's better.
disk
It's
drive,
faster too than a floppy drive. So
yeah, the thing is reliable. I mean, it's reliable.
They also have the SCC Explorer. I don't know if you got into finding that yet, but that's a whole launching system. It's a menu-driven thing. It just pops up. If you set it up right, it'll actually pop up as soon as you turn the CoCo on. And then you just pick through the arrows or a joystick and just click and go.
It's on my, that's the SDC Explorer.
Yeah,
I
think I read that Curtis had recommended it to somebody in the Discord server, that it can be used with both keyboard and joystick, I believe. Yep. No? I'm sure I read about that. Yeah. So no, I have been looking into it. I have been looking into it, but like I say, funds are kind of low at the moment. Now I'm not looking for anything. I'm not. Maybe for Christmas. Maybe for Christmas I might treat myself.
Hey Peter, I got a flat screen TV. If you're interested, got a lot of stuff I could sell you. So keep you posted.
If you're giving it away.
then you got to join the GameON Sky Score Challenge once you have your SDC.
Who wants to make him a good deal on the Brooklyn Bridge?
Well, depending on what the game is, if it's keyboard operated, runs in a 64K CoCo 2, I mean, he could play it anyway. We'll just send him the cassette image for it. So,
well, the only currency we really value here is participation, and thanks for the great conversation, Peter, and certainly feel like you can chime in at any other point during the show. We actually want to hear from other people who may not have had the CoCo experience in the past. So it's pretty fascinating to listen to you go through that.
Get that fresh user perspective.
Yeah, and if you want to just jump on the panel other times without being interrogated and having the whole panel try to sell you stuff, I think you should feel welcome to do so.
Okay, well, look, I'm willing to do so. I'm willing to do so. I will from time to time if I may.
So join any week you want. You
can join on the YouTube chat if you're kind of busy and just want to keep us in the background, or you can join us right on the panel live. Or
we're on Discord during the week.
Yeah, no, it's something that I'll definitely be floating around from time to time, whether it's just watching on YouTube and throwing in insults through the chat, or
we love seeing the community grow. I mean, we're just always happy to welcome new people in the community who are nice and have a good time with us. So
we don't want you to get discouraged either.
Yeah, After all,
don't worry.
And any questions you have for us, just feel free to ask.
After all, we talked to Nick Morentes, so we'll talk to anybody.
Well, we've made a few mistakes. We've got David Ladd on. Now we're stuck with him.
Well, Nick. We've been talking a while. I feel like
I think we need a commercial break before we switch over to David's
is going to have to pee. I can sense it. He's giving me that look. I can see it. So
his eyes are turning yellow.
He's doing the dance.
Yeah,
we'll be right back.
So when we come back, I think we'll have David O'Connor demonstrate his CoCo and his new Fairchild or Fairlight? I can't remember now. Fairlight. Sorry.
Get it right.
Fairchild got destroyed.
I just remember it has OS 9. That was the important part to me. So.
Okay, David O'Connor. After these messages, stay tuned, everyone.
Hi, this is Eddie Zerbinski from beautiful Quebec City. Vous écoutez CoCoTALK.
As you're enjoying CoCo Talk, we also want to remind you about the CoCo Discord server. This is a place where people come to connect, to ask questions, to provide answers, to share information, and to socialize. So when you're done, why don't you head on over to the CoCo Discord server and we'll continue the conversation there. The easy to remember link is discord.cocotalk.live. See you on Discord. CoCo123 is the Glenside Color Computer Club community newsletter that's been in publication since 1985. While the Rainbow magazine may be gone, it doesn't mean you still can't have a cool CoCo periodical. Head on over to the Glenside Color Computer website at glensideccc.com and then click on the Documents link to view all the past issues of the CoCo123 newsletter. Not only can you read all of the past and present issues, we'd also love to hear some submissions from you. So if you'd like to send an article, a column, something to talk about, maybe even a program listing, send an email to glensideccc@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. The CoCo World Map is a cool community resource where you can view coconuts from around the world. Head on over to map.cocotalk.live and see where your fellow coconutians happen to be living on the planet Earth. If you would like to submit yourself to be on the CoCo Map, send an email to cocotalk@cocotalk.live, and we look forward to seeing you on the CoCo Map. Hey guys, it's Stevie Strode, and if you've been watching CoCo Talk for a while, hopefully you understand that everyone is welcome to join this show. You don't need an impressive resume to get on. You just need to enjoy the CoCo and be willing to talk about it. There is no wrong way to CoCo. There is no wrong way to be a fan of the CoCo. There's no wrong way to be on CoCo Talk. You just have to want to talk CoCo. So if you would like to join us, then reach out to us on our Discord server, which is discord.cocotalk.live, or send an email to cocotalk@cocotalk.live, and let's get you on the show and let's talk about the CoCo.
Hi, I'm Tim, and you're watching CoCo Talk Live. And I'm playing Daggereth online like that idiot from the book.
Can you dial back on the condescension there as you respond there?
And we're back, everybody. And thanks for all the great conversation. We want to talk to a guy down under who's got a few pieces of equipment in his house. And I'll welcome David O'Connor to the show. And what are you going to show us today, David?
Well, as some of you may have been following along, and at numerous times throughout different episodes or whatever, I've spoken about a Australian invention, which was pretty much the Rolls-Royce of musical instruments in the 80s, called the Fairlight CMI. The CMI stood for Computer Musical Instrument. And behind me right here, this box with this board hanging out the front, this is a fully working, custom-built Fairlight CMI Series 3. The Fairlight CMI, let me try that again. The Series 3 Fairlight, back in the day, would buy the money you'd spend on one of those would buy you a couple of small houses or a couple of large houses actually in Sydney. So they were hideously expensive, which mainly made them open to only big studios and well-known artists. But having said that, it was big studios and the well-known artists. They used them on everything. All the 80s hits Fairlight was all over them. Michael Jackson used it. Stevie Wonder used it. Peter Gabriel, Kate Bush, Pet Shop Boys, Art of Noise, you name it. So they're pretty much the Rolls-Royce of musical instruments in the day. And today they're still very highly sought after, but they're quite rare. I managed to get in touch with one of the original guys who was part of Fairlight back in the day. His name's Peter Welp. He's based in Sydney now. And he's restoring Fairlights. And he's got old stock that he got from Fairlight in the day. He worked as a product manager. He worked with Stevie Wonder. He worked with Peter Gabriel, Pet Shop Boys, Duran Duran, and some others as well. So yeah, Peter was looking for somebody who was familiar with the technology in these things. And I posted on. I've always wanted a Fairlight, but I thought there's no way known I'm going to be able to get my own Fairlight. Well, the tables have turned, and Peter was looking for a repair tech familiar with the technology, and I'm looking for a Fairlight. So we've come up with an agreement where he sent me down this rig here, which is his test rig, which he's custom designed specifically for testing and repairing circuit boards. Yeah, I'm doing repairs for Peter in exchange for my own Fairlight system. So I have right here. This is one of the voice boards out of the Fairlight. You can see this one here has actually got the voice board plugged into it here on an extender card. But right here, you'll see, if I can get that zoomed right up there, right in the middle of that board there is a 6809 CPU. Of course, I've got a pussycat in the background who wants to join in. These, a fully expanded Fairlight has 8 of these boards in it and a couple of other boards. So it's no less than 10 6809s with the others. The main CPUs in the Series 3 are 68,000s. There's 2 of those. And as I was discussing with Curtis earlier on, the operating system is OS 9, or a variation of it's OS 9, OSK, I think we were saying, for the 68,000.
Yeah, most likely that or OS 9000. I'm not sure which one. I can't tell from that one boot screen you showed me. So
yeah, I've got all the documentation here, obviously, because I'm doing all the repairs and all the rest of it. So I'll go through and I'll find out those details.
Did the early Series 1 Fairlights actually have OS 9 for the 6809?
That's good. The original, the first Fairlight, because the Fairlight was originally developed in the late 70s, ran a 6800 processor. And then I think the Series 2 and the 2X. The 2X is the classic one with the light pen and the trapezoidal screen and all the rest of it. That ran 6809 processors for everything, the main CPU and the sound cards. And then when the Series 3 came out, they upgraded to 68,000, but they kept the 6809s on all the other boards. So I'm not sure what the operating systems were on the earlier ones. I'll have to find out. I think the 2X was also OS 9. So anyway, what I've got here, to keep this on topic, aside from the 6809s, this is my CoCo. I've nicknamed it my CoCo 4. It's not really a CoCo 4. It's a Model 4 with a CoCo 3, which I'm in the process of transplanting. Some of you have seen on other episodes, I've got here the Second Sound DACO 160 audio to MIDI, audio to synth, which basically converts audio signals to synth and control voltage and MIDI and all the rest of it. I've demoed that on segments before. So what I figured I'd do, connect up my CoCo to the DACO and then plug that in via MIDI into the Fairlight and get the CoCo to play the Fairlight. So to start things off, I've loaded up, you probably can't see it on there, I can't really zoom, but that's called Thriller BSS. And yes, it's the original sound file that Michael Jackson used on the Thriller album. And in particular, the intro to Beat It. So I've just written, literally before the show, I haven't done anything elaborate. I've just written some fairly simple basic programs using the play command and some other stuff to play various sounds that I'll load up onto the Fairlight and then play for you. So the first one.
Yeah. Hey, David. So the DAC board, right? It reads the audio from the play commands and turns it into controls for the synth.
Yes, yeah. This will take, it literally takes the audio output from the CoCo, goes into the mic input on this thing, and then that converts it into control voltage gate and MIDI signals. I'm not using control voltage and gate here because it's not an analog synthesizer. Right. I've got it running out MIDI out of there into the MIDI input on the top.
Excellent. Here. Okay, cool.
So yeah, basically the play command is spitting out MIDI. So if I run the first one here, as Peter was talking about before, and we were all talking about, this is the CoCo SDC Explorer here. I've saved all my programs onto the CoCo SDC. So I've got a bunch of little ones. I literally wrote these like 2 or 3 hours before the show today. So they're very simple and there's not much displayed on the screen, but the point is that they're actually playing the Fairlight. So the first one, hopefully everybody will recognize this. Yeah, and then we get the so
Definitely won't get a ding for that.
no, I hope not. Anyway, if I press break there and just list that program, probably not going to be able to see that. It's a bit. Anyway, it's basically just a CLS, a poke statement, a string that I've used for the play command, and that's a couple of other little things, and that's pretty much it. So what you heard there is the CoCo actually playing the exact sounds that Michael Jackson actually used on the Thriller album. So that's the first one. This particular Fairlight has had a couple of upgrades, a couple of custom things. This little board here basically takes a USB signal and converts it to a standard Fairlight 9-pin keyboard connector. So I can run a modern PC keyboard on it, which I've got right here. It's Ron Delvo, you'll recognize that one. It's a wireless keyboard that if Ron's not back in the loo, I don't know. That's a wireless keyboard that I've got there, and I can literally cycle through that there, and I'm changing things on the Fairlight. So if I go across here, this is a sound that's been used to death. Everybody knows this sound. It's called Orchestra 5 or ORCH5, Orc 5. And it's a very, very, very famous sound. I'll just load that into Fairlight right now. And get back into my directory. And I have load IMPOSS. Loading the program. Now, I do not think that Mission Impossible used this actual sound. In fact, I know it didn't, but why not? I was just looking for something that would demo this sound. Everyone will know this sound too when I run this. So yeah, that's that's the Orchestra 5 sound. So if I just play one note there, I can just do play, say play C. And there it is, or play O2. See, go an octave up. Play O3. See. So you can see there literally I'm typing in play commands there manually and getting that to play the Fairlight in real time.
Yeah, I just want to mention in the live chat, Lantertronics says this is like the singularity of 80s technology.
Absolutely, it's the Rolls Royce of musical instruments in the 80s.
You've got everything coming together. CoCo inside of a TRS-80 and with a Fairlight. We just need Mr. T, Mr. T to show up, and we've got the 80s.
Yeah, yep. That's I've got the 2X and the Series 3 libraries here, so there's a ton of sounds in here. Obviously, we haven't got time to go through them all, so I'm just picking some ones that everybody will be familiar with. So those two were from the 2X library, which is the series before this one. If I just go out of that and if I load up the Series 3 library, just go in there, press F12, that'll load up the Series 3 library. Go into my directory here. Terminator 2. Everybody knows Terminator 2, and most people are familiar with the score from Terminator 2. Not many people realize that the entire score on Terminator 2 was done on a Fairlight Series 3. So I actually have the sounds here from the Terminator movie that they used.
David, Robert Murphy in the chat was saying that Aliens was also used a Fairlight.
That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I don't know the details of that, but wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I just go in here and wait a minute, I've gone too far, I think. Go back. I want to load up. Yeah, Brass Fall 12. This sound is a sound that was used. I think it was used when the T1000 was dropped into the. No, that might have been later on. It's this sound anyway. Brass Fall 12. Have I loaded that? Yeah, I've loaded that. If I load T2, good name for it. If I just play that normally, it's a brass sound. It's just a normal brass sample of a brass instrument. A series of brass instruments. So if I play that 03 say play a C, you hear the that's like the brass doesn't sound anything like anything that was used in the Terminator score. But if you take it right down a few octaves, right down low, it has this unique character. If I run this, that's actually some of the sounds from the Terminator movie. That's the exact sounds they used in it.
Sounds like Ron Delvaux when he has to pee.
Oh, no, that sounds like an elephant.
Yeah. It's
You can hear the resemblance though, because it almost sounds like an Aliens sound effect. Robert Murphy saying that the producer of Aliens talks about it quite a bit on the commentary disc.
Oh yeah, okay, I'll have to check that out.
It was used during the drop ship sequence.
Yeah, right. If I go over here, we've got sound effects as well. I mean, the Fairlight was used by BBC Radiophonic and all the rest of Radiophonic Workshop for a lot of sound effects and things. So I've just got one here.
You have any cat sound effects?
No, there probably is. There's a dog sound effect above the one I've just loaded.
I think you have an analog cat sound effect somewhere.
Yeah, a real one. What I've loaded here is a dragster. They actually sampled the sound of a top fuel dragster. So if I load that in here, press run on that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
How much RAM is on each of those boards that you just showed us?
There's not much. The voice cards themselves don't contain the main system RAM. That's on separate boards. This particular system isn't fully expanded with RAM. It's got 8 megabytes of RAM, but I think they had 32 megabyte cards for the that you could expand it up to.
Right.
This one being a custom system, which is designed specifically for repairing voice cards and everything, it isn't fully expanded with all the extra outputs. The fully expanded one's got 16 audio outputs. This one's just got 2 audio outputs. But you know, the system I'm going to be building up in exchange for the repairs here will be a fully expanded system. Directory here. Actually, just go into my
What's the
Explorer.
unit on top?
The unit on top, that's my audio interfaces and a mic preamp, and this is a Sound Devices 744T field recorder. I'm actually using that to take the sound from that into my speakers. So that's what's basically audio interface. So if I just go in here.
So this machine must have a big power supply, huh?
It's this that the originals had a massive power supply in them. This one has been redesigned with a modern computer power supply. Literally an ATX modified power supply, plus and minus 12 volt rails and plus 5 volt rail, and a couple of other mods too. It needs a 20 volt rail as well, so it's been modified to do that. Now, if I go into, it's actually particularly good at doing percussion sounds as well. I'll just load up this Darbuka sound. So if I do load FL.
Lantertronic says you need a synclavier.
Yeah. The synclavier and the Fairlight were the two Rolls Royces. But this one was probably the one that's more well known, even though they were, and it's an Australian invention too, the Fairlight.
Huh.
So I've loaded. Have I loaded that? No, I haven't loaded that yet. Let's load that book. Load that one in. I've loaded the program to play it. So the CoCo here is literally playing, once again, individual notes, which are then mapped, MIDI mapped into individual drum samples. So I've got one sound loaded in here, which has got a whole ton of different samples of a single instrument. If I run that, what we'll hear here is some percussion played by the CoCo.
This is where Chet starts singing rap, I think.
If I do play C, for example, that's one note. Play G. You'll hear it's playing different parts of the drums. Play octave 3, A. There's little different parts of it. So by playing different notes, you're literally playing different instruments or different parts of the same instrument.
That cat sound effect is very convincing.
It's very realistic, isn't it?
So when you do your music, you have the CoCo do a whole program, and
oh yeah. If I just load that in again.
And sorry, I forgot, but is it? It's talking over serial?
No, MIDI.
MIDI. Wow.
Yeah. The DACO 160 board from Second Sound is converting the audio output from the CoCo into MIDI signals. And then the MIDI's going direct. Yeah, and that's going directly into the Fairlight.
Pay attention,
Serial.
So yeah, Ron, to answer your question there, I've literally, to play those notes, I've just got P string equals tempo 4, octave 1, C, octave 2, C, octave 3, C, so on, different timings or whatnot to play different notes. Tempo 8 to play the little fills a little bit quicker, tempo 16 to play some extra notes in between. So it's literally all play commands with strings to do all that. Just go back to my main directory. Oops. Go back to here and go back down to here. This is the CoCo SD Explorer if Peter's still around. Did I play that? Yeah, I played that one. To finish off the audio demos here, we have to do something Australian. So I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to load it up and then I'm going to play it.
Oh, AC/DC.
No, not quite. Something a little more down to earth, literally. This one here.
I don't even
That sounds like a Jason Reichert Coco Man ad. That's what that sounds like.
I think that vacuum cleaner sounds like it's clogged.
It's a long
Pussycat's gotten into it. Actually, there is a sound of a fart in this one.
Yeah, let's get to
let's go ahead and class the show up with that. That sounds.
We had
great.
TJ Chris in the live chat had a fart detector, a famous.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so you could actually create the fart sound effects.
Yeah, I think that's actually in the 2X library, which I didn't. I've got the dog sound effect.
It's a big bomb threat. That what Ken Reichert is saying, referencing his
song. So is there a didgeridoo or one of those?
That is a didgeridoo that I just played.
That was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And by playing different notes, you can play different rhythms and different parts of the didgeridoo and different breath sounds and all the rest of it, which I didn't have time to program in because, like I said, I literally put these programs together before the show. So yeah, that's CoCo 4.
Is that the hard drive you got in the mail?
Yes, that's it right there. You can see that there. That's literally sitting on the front.
Where would it go?
It would normally, this is a SKB 19-inch rack mount case. The Fairlights have usually got, you've probably seen them, their own custom rack case system. And that hard drive goes in the box that the Fairlight comes in. So yeah, what we, if I go, actually, if I just load that didgeridoo sound again.
So it's very, very cool. And I'm interested to see what other details you got about the underlying operating system stuff there. Because of course I've used some industrial OS 9 stuff on presses and stuff in the past too. And this kind of like looks like a musical application of the same thing. So it'd be interesting to see what you're running inside there software wise.
Yeah, like I said, I've got all the documentation. I've got the original service manuals and the original user manuals and all the documentation. Peter's basically sent me everything for it, all the libraries, all Peter Gabriel's libraries. I've got all of that stuff as well, Pet Shop Boys stuff. That's all on here. And pretty much in the Fairlight world, when you link up with other Fairlight users, those libraries have been shared fairly extensively in the Fairlight world. So it's not hard to actually get hold of any of the original libraries that these, Stevie Wonder and Duran Duran, Pet Shop Boys, Kate Bush, Peter Gabriel, all these people used.
Is that what goes on the hard drive?
Yeah, and the operating system. So
is that actually the back of the unit, or that is meant to be the front?
This is
because it's got all the connectors there. I thought maybe that's meant to be turned around and
Usually MIDI sockets and audio sockets there. Yeah, it is. That's usually around the other way on the actual Fairlight unit. And the main Fairlight unit's just got a big panel that folds down at the front so you can take the cards in and out. But as I said before, this one's specifically built for doing repairs.
Yeah, you want everything accessible when you're doing repairs. So
yeah, absolutely.
Nick?
Yep.
Is it too early to announce that you'll be modifying Gunstar to use the Fairlight as a sound? Are you announcing that today?
No, not today.
Okay.
Top secret.
Okay.
Are there any other parts of this that we can't see? I mean, that's the whole unit underneath the rack at the top. The bottom unit, is it?
A fully expanded Fairlight has its own custom monitor. I'm using a standard VGA monitor here for it. And I've got there's a little board in the back of this thing. It's a custom board that takes the video signal from this and converts it into standard VGA format that can run on a standard VGA monitor. There's also a custom keyboard that comes with the Fairlight. Some of them are single manual and 2 manual double keyboards.
As in a real musical keyboard, not a computer. Well, not just a computer keyboard. You're talking about a musical keyboard.
Yeah. It's a full, like I think it's 7 octaves or something. It's a full piano length. Well, no, 76 note. It's in between a synth action, which is 61 notes, and a piano, which is 88 notes. So it's 76 notes, but they have 2 of them on some of them.
Yeah.
So what we've got here is the internals of a Fairlight in a flight case, basically. So tech guy can go running around with it and do tech things.
Yeah. And like I said, this one's custom designed. Peter actually specifically built it to do diagnosis and repairs of circuits, specifically the voice cards, which I showed before, which is one of those. That's the one with the 6809 on it there in the middle.
And this is all 16-bit?
No.
32?
What? The 68,000, that was...
68,000 itself is 24-bit on the memory bus. But the I/O cards that are 689 would have to be 8-bit for the 689 unless it's got MMUs on it as well. But the main controlling system would be full 16-bit.
Yeah. And the cards are 8-bit, because they got 6809s on them.
So the main 68,000 basically allows you to load via the operating system, allows you to load samples off the hard drive, and it transfers it to one of those cards, say, into the memory of those cards, and the 6809 plays that sound. So the 68,000 is basically
the controller
running the show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as I said before, the memory card is actually a separate card that mounts in separately. These are most of the chips on these cards. 6809. That's almost all of those chips. There are just logic chips, 74 series logic chips.
Now, is the 6809 on that one the external clock?
It certainly is. If you look on there, it's the exact
EP?
same one.
Yeah.
It's the 68B09 EP. So it's the exact same one used in our CoCos.
Oh, cool.
I wanted to mention too, the system, the way it's set up with the 68,000 being the master controller and then all these subboards with 689s, that was exactly the design Frank Hogg was going for with the K-Bus, with the TC70, the TC9, and some of those, because they were going to have TC70s as the main controller, 68,070 based. And then the TC9s, which are all 609 or 6309 based, were going to be the other ones with their own memory, and et cetera. And they were actually set up on a card plane exactly like this.
Yeah, okay. What I've just brought up here, obviously this is a sampler, so you could record samples into it as well. Then you can modify the samples. It's a synthesizer as well, so you can create sounds from scratch internally as well, even if you don't have a sample. But what I've brought up here, this is the waveform edit page. So that's the sound of the didgeridoo. That's the waveform of the didgeridoo there, basically. Tells you sample rate.
Sound.
It's 44.1K, so it's full CD quality on the Series 3. Tells you whether it's stereo or mono, what channels you've got. As you were saying before, Nick, with each individual card here with the 6809 on it, that can control 2 voices or 2 channels. So I've got 2 channels here of output, so stereo output.
Each card?
Yeah.
All right. So if you have 4 cards, you effectively have 8 voices.
Yeah, so a fully
Which you can
expanded.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, a fully expanded system has 8 of those cards, so it's got 16
8.
voices.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I play a chord on the keyboard and I play 3 notes on it, 2 of the notes will be on one card, and then the next note will be on the other card. If I play a complex jazz chord and then bass in that thing, it'll start to fill up more of the cards as you play more notes.
Well,
And
16
they all
makes sense because
Yeah, and
that's what MIDI does. Has 16 channels.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, yeah, and the polyphony and the multiple outputs, you can literally have every single note on its own individual output and then take it into an audio mixer and mix it all separately. So
Yeah.
they were incredibly flexible unit, which is why everybody used them. And Kate Bush recorded entire albums just on the Fairlight. I think.
And really, modern keyboards and synthesizers and computers have basically taken that idea and now it's all integrated within chips and stuff of modern keyboards and stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. Although the Fairlight is still highly sought after because there's certain things, like the sequencer page and the editing page and the way you can go in, you can actually do fast Fourier transform or FFT manipulations on waveforms directly in the system.
Right.
And that's stuff that's even by today's standards is still a fairly advanced synthesis, because this thing was doing it in the 80s and still does it. Like I said, that's the sample rate on that didgeridoo is 44.1K, so it's full CD quality.
So this thing can record the sound of a boomerang.
You can record anything you want. Yeah.
Oh, boomerangs don't make noise, but
I know.
They do when they hit you in the head. So yeah, if I'll just get back to it.
That's really cool. I have to say I'm impressed with the sounds you're getting out of that, and the fact that it's running OS 9 is a bonus for me, of course, because I'm an OS 9 nut.
Yeah.
OS 9. Cool.
Yep. So
The
yeah,
key term being OS 9 nut.
Oh, you picked up on that, did you?
Maybe you should contact Motorola and tell them what you're doing.
See if I could find that. I think the diarrhea one's on this.
And what games does it play?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully Gunstar eventually.
Does it have a real-time clock?
Well, I think it would.
OSK definitely would probably have an interrupt timer controller too.
What do we got here? We got where's that diarrhea sound that I found before? Might be in here, I think. Just gotta go through the directories.
Can you change the fonts?
Here we go, diarrhea. Why don't we load that in? I'll escape out of that.
I assume that's using a graphic screen on the Fairlight to do everything in graphics format, like the interface, the interface that you're running there. I assume that's a graphics interface.
There's a dedicated graphics card built in it. Yeah. It's oops, that doesn't sound much diarrhea. Oh,
Someone's at the door. It's a big metal door.
Someone ruined the door.
Oh, I haven't loaded it. I've highlighted it, but I haven't loaded the sound. That's why. Okay, helps if I actually load the sound. Here we go. Let's try that. Play 1 C. There we go. Yeah, I'll try that again. Play 1 G. Oh, let's put the exclamation mark in there. 1 G.
Sounds sloppy.
Yeah, very sloppy. And do we want some cowbells?
Or cowbell.
Everybody needs more cowbell.
All right, let's see if we can get a cowbell coming up here.
I have a fever.
Oh, that's a low cowbell. Play 03, see? There's a cowbell. Lay? No, we don't want to lay. We want to play. Let's go CD. Let's go musical cowbells. There we go. There's some musical cowbells. So yeah, there's a ton of fun to be had with these things. And,
it had a sequencer as well, so you can compose an entire song in there as well, and it's part of the software.
It certainly does. If I go into page 10 here, if I load that up, it should bring up the sequencer page. second to load that because it's loading it off the SCSI hard drive. Oh, I've got to create a new one. Okay, that's right. I've got to type in new, I think, memory. Type that in.
So you have to learn a whole new syntax to make this run?
No,
Yeah,
he's just
pretty much.
using
I've got
play commands in BASIC.
Oh, on the CoCo, yeah. That's just standard BASIC or machine language if you want.
But on the Fairlight, you have to learn the syntax to tell it to do things, right? Like DOS or whatever.
Oh no. It's got its own operating. It's a complete operating system. So it's like I've got here. You know, I've created. This is the start page for the sequencer. You can tell it what tempo you want. So I scroll across there. It's at 120 beats per minute. Time code. You can tell it when to start and stop, and you can synchronize it to external, computers or tape machines or whatever you want. So yeah, sync status, internal, external, simply time code, MIDI time code. It's very, very extensive. I mean, obviously these things were designed for professional studios. So I can go in there once I've created all of that. Then I've got to remember. I can't remember the. Oh yeah, here it is. It's down here. I think it's. No. I haven't really actually. I literally got this up and running literally like 2 days ago. So, and it's a brand new operating system for me. So I'm still, but I did get into it the other day and I loaded it up, and it's a multi-track sequencer where you can put in notes and load different sounds into different tracks and whatnot. So yeah, you can compose entire, like I said, Kate Bush and Jean-Michel Jarre, he composed entire albums on it as well. In fact. If I go directly.
So what gave you the headache the other day? It wouldn't be this, would it?
No. This arrived after I had the headache.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the fact that the hard drive hadn't arrived that I had the headache. Going to this one. Oh, I keep on pressing the arrow keys on the CoCo keyboard to go there.
I said run emulators do that all the time if you're having your CoCo and your emulator right beside each other.
Yep. There's a sound in here called ping pong. I think it's in this one. I don't know how many. It might be in. Actually, I think it's in the.
Can you search by letter?
Probably. I haven't figured that out yet. But actually, I've got the wrong library loaded. I've got to load up the Series 3 library. I don't know how many people are familiar with Jean-Michel Jarre. Did a concert in China a number of years ago, and he did a combination of a number of his different albums. And on one of them, he did this sound of a ping pong balls bouncing around the room. And he used a Fairlight to do that. And I'm pretty sure on here, the ping pong sound is in here somewhere.
So somebody had to record all these different sounds at one time or another, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can record your own too as you go too, so you can create new sounds.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a huge part of what this thing did. It was like the Babushka. You know, everybody knows Kate Bush's song Babushka. It's got that glass smash in it, and the other sounds, the whoosh, and all these other. They were created on the Fairlight. They literally what they did for that. Peter Gabriel and Kate Bush went out and got an old CRT television that wasn't working, and they put a microphone in front of it and threw a brick onto the CRT and smashed the CRT to get the sound of the glass smash, and then sampled it into the Fairlight, and that got used on Babushka. So, I can't find that pink.
I seem to recall reading something or hearing something one time where the laser sound, the laser blast sound that you hear on Star Wars when they shoot their laser guns, was actually a sound that was recorded from somebody taking a bat and hitting one of the the lines that you have like a radio tower, and then they got those the guy wires that kind of hold the tower upright. And if you've ever hit one of those, they make kind of a pew pew sort of sound. And somebody actually took a microphone and recorded the sound of somebody hitting one of those tower lines that support the tower. And they took that sound and then they tweaked it, and that's actually what you hear is the laser sound from Star Wars.
That's cool.
Yeah, they used a rebar to hit it. They actually highlighted that on the behind the scenes that HBO had back in the early 80s.
Okay, so it was a piece of rebar. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember the.
Yeah, I remember I went out and tried that afterwards. Actually, after watching that documentary, and it actually does work.
Yeah, Yeah, it was really interesting because I mean, it's very, very simple how they, some of the things that they use to create those sounds, but having an ear for that, knowing where to go to get it is a completely different story.
Hey, David, where did they get the name Fairlight from? Do you know that?
That's a really good question. I have no idea.
Huh.
I'll have to.
Wikipedia. The
Yeah, check out
Wikipedia page
Wikipedia.
says
It's probably right there.
Wikipedia page says it's named after the ferry near Kim, what's his name's grandmother's house.
Kim Ryrie.
Yeah. His grandmother has there's a ferry that runs near her house in Sydney called the Fairlight.
Oh, there you go. Well, Kim Ryrie and Peter Vogel were the two Australian guys who designed the Fairlight, and Peter Welk, who I'm working with, was a product specialist who worked with those guys.
I was thinking of the Walt Disney ferry when you first said ferry.
Oops, I found the ping pong sound. Let's see if I can get that to play properly now. Play tempo 1, octave 2. I think it's about a C or something like that. We should get a nice little ping pong sound. Oh, another octave up. Play tempo 1.
Yeah, we'll make this the last sample here so we can get on to the other stuff. We're going to have an 8-hour show again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe cue a couple sounds up for the end of the show there, David.
Yeah, cool. I'll finish this section now with this classic ping pong sound from Jean-Michel Jarre. So this was the. That's pretty much, that's looped. He did some more fancy stuff with it, which I haven't done here. But,
it kind of sounded like a single thought bouncing around inside of my head too. That's what it sounds like. So
10-0, I win.
It sounds like two empty halves of coconuts banging together, like
Monty Python. Yeah.
Anyway, that's CoCo playing Fairlight.
Cool. Great. Well, keep us posted when you get further into the technical part of the Fairlight, like in the OS9 part and stuff there. Like I said, I'd be interested in, plus the OS9 group and Facebook I think would be quite interested in that too. So keep us posted.
Well, I'll be using this setup. I'll be using on the CoCo Music album as well. So the reason I haven't done much more on the CoCo Music album to this point was because I was waiting for this thing to arrive. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah, there'll be actual Fairlight used on the CoCo Music album.
Great. I want the Milli Vanilli orchestra hit if you have it.
That orchestra hit. Well, I loaded that up before.
Was it the same one?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
That's
the exact one. Orchestra 5.
Do you have the Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis glass breaking? That's a famous sound.
Probably.
We'll have a lot of requests for you. But you did get a lot of compliments in the chat, and really thanks for going over this, David. You won over Jim Brain from Retro Innovations, which
never happens.
I don't think that's Jim Brain. I don't know what happened to Jim Brain.
Unfortunately, that means he'll be back next week. But
it's been a lot of fun.
So I think we need to do a commercial break, and we'll come back with the GameON results.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after these. We're going to come back and take a little journey to some CoCo thoughts with Samuel Gimes, and then, of course, as you mentioned, the game results. Can you stand the excitement? I cannot.
Barely.
It's palpable.
Yeah. Here we go.
We'll return after these messages.
My fellow Americans, Australians, Canadians, Europeans, and all of you ands, I'm calling on all y'all to help us make the world great again by visiting the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com, where you can get yourself a coffee mug like this with a little cute cartoon character that says, I'm a Coco Nut. You could also get yourself a coffee mug like this with a Color Computer 3 that says, I'm a Coco Nut. You could get yourself a deluxe travel mug like this with the CoCoTALK logo on it. You might even be able to get yourself a DVD like this with over 2 hours of gameplay goodness. It is time for us to rise up and make the world great again by enjoying some quality retro merchandise and CoCo nostalgia. So please visit 8bit256.com and let's make the world great for the color computer. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Coco Land. This is Brian Schubring with Music Man here at the Coco Fest. Having fun, fixing issues, and making things roll, and making lots of sound. Have a great day, guys.
Baby, there's something I need to talk to you about. Remember when we first met? Everything was so easy and it felt like nothing could stop us. But now, everything is such a struggle. And if I'm being honest, You're really starting to show your age. Can I get the check, please?
Break up with 512K. Use 2 megabytes now with NitroOS 9 Ease of Use Edition.
Ease of use. Download EOU today at lcurtisboyle.com.
Some people have big plans after school. You know what Elliot's gonna do? Jeff, too. Elliot's at work on a book report using Scripted on Radio Shack's Color Computer 3. It hooks up to his TV. And Jeff's at his Radio Shack Color Computer 3 playing the newest football game. But wait, what's Elliot doing playing New Super Pitfall? And Jeff's having a blast with a new math tutor. You never know what you might try with more than 100 programs for fun and learning. Radio Shack's Color Computer 3 comes with everything you see here. Other items each sold separately. Only at Radio Shack.
And now, CoCo Thoughts by Samuel Gimes. I remember the days of grade school, when on the playground we would talk about the latest computer and console games. Until one day, when a kid told the teacher he was having a blast with his new math tutor. After he got out of the hospital, he changed schools.
Well, everybody, that was an older classic CoCo Thoughts. Samuel Gimes,
funny.
He's always commenting on the things in the news that happen. He's definitely always got something to say. And with that, I believe we have some new...
We have the... Yes.
Some new thought, not nude, but new CoCo Thoughts. And we're going to listen in along with the panel here. And here we go.
And now, CoCo Thoughts by Samuel Gimes. Of all the platform games, CashMan doesn't get any credit.
Cash only, buddy.
I believe that's technically called a groaner.
That was very punny.
Indeed.
Wah, wah, wah.
Absolutely. And Stevie Stroh has joined the
Well,
panel.
I do have a question for Ron Delvaux.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Ron, what did you think of the singing in this week's
jeez.
CoCo Thoughts?
Ron is not saying anything now.
Somebody kick him out.
Well, we hope Samuel Gimes will sing again. Even after...
Do we really?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
We do. You're
Yes.
outvoted on that one, sir.
Well, Stevie, we're about to go to the highly anticipated high score game results. Do you have anything you wanted to talk about before that, or can we go right into
that? Is, from what I can tell, that is everyone's favorite segment of the show. So roll the tape, Gene.
Until the next segment.
All right. Are you ready, Nick? Are you
I
ready?
am.
All right.
Yes.
Here we go.
High Score Challenge with Nick Marotta.
All right, and welcome to another week of results. We had 21 people playing CashMan this week. Our Alan Murphy, 2,460. David Ladd, 2,580. Mark Bosley, 2,740. Tim Halloran, 3,430. Mr. Dave 6309, 3,880. Damon Beals, 4,190. Joshua, 4,220. David Croker, 4,610. Canadian Retro Things, 5,500. Tandy Color Computer 3, 5,730. Cat Lord, 5,800. L. Curtis Boyle, 6,060. Coco Man, 6,110. OG Stevie Stroh, 6,400. Frodo, 6,450. Tom C, 6,830. Jim Rice 7,080, Tasman 8,330, Buck Owens 9,800, me 11,230, and the number one score this week was by none other than Erico at 21,040. Thank you again to all of this week's participants. All right. And the scores were lower this week in general, so I had lots of time to pronounce them, which so they're going to be a little bit slow, but it's okay. Yo.
It kind of felt like you phoned that one in. A little low on the energy. Can we do it again this time with feeling?
That's because I wasn't having a rush to pronounce the scores. They were only 4 digits or 5 digits this week. So
you should let David Ladd do it.
Oh, and at 6,110.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You mind if I take?
I don't know if you saw Stevie. Yeah, there you go. But
you mind if I
Stevie, I don't know if you
control,
noticed,
Rob?
I'm number 9.
9. Oh, that's great. 9.
Number 9. Number 9.
I'm just wondering how Nick did it without moving his lips. I mean, we're sitting here and I wasn't seeing him.
Is he drinking a glass of water at the same time?
That's right. So can you see my screen?
Certainly can.
Okay, so we had a submission by Buck Owens this week, who I think took umbrage with us calling it Jumpman. I will say, when it's not super jump, he really didn't jump that well. So maybe that's what Buck Owens is saying. I'm not sure.
Can't jump, man.
Yes. So this is a review from Rainbow, and it got a favorable review, as I'm sure we are not surprised.
As Rainbow traditionally did with just about everything back then.
It did get favorable reviews by other magazines as well, but yeah. So what did you guys think of the game this week?
I have to say, in my case, I mean, I was planning on getting back to playing it on real hardware because I was playing it in an emulator within a virtual machine, so I was getting a little bit of lag in the joystick. Because I used to be pretty good at this game. I used to be able to get up to like level 46 or something like that, but I have not played it in so long. I completely suck at it now.
So there was some debate as to whether it took, with the analog joystick, if it took into account more than just the 45-degree position of the stick when it came to jumping off the ladder or not. Like whether, you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say?
Yeah, whether it's a switch-based style reading of the joystick.
Because I know I enjoyed using the Sega gamepad again. I found I could whip around, even if it did sacrifice some angles, which I'm not sure if it did or not. But
yeah, I'm not sure if it did or not either. I do remember one thing though, is that this game was a blast to play with 2-player.
Yes, because you could gang up on each other and throw eggs at each other and make it as.
Well, we usually played cooperative because we would want to try to get through as many levels because there's so many in the game to get through, and the later ones are quite difficult. So, you know, having cooperative meant you could actually see the screens because you have a selection at the beginning. You can pick, you know, those different sight groupings like no jump and super jump, but once you get into the highest one, starting at level 41, there's no more skipping. You have to earn your way through the rest of them.
Yeah. So, yeah, this game is, I mean, the only enemies were the cats. Everything else was, I mean, the birds would pick you up. And then there was like zappers on the floor that seemed to attract me all the time. But yeah, this is one of the top platformers and when I think of the CoCo anyway.
Yep, I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I used Tandy Deluxe joystick because that's what I had near me, but it was very easy to play and easy to get better. And I feel like, you know, again, a lot of these games, a week is sometimes not enough time. So hopefully it'll inspire people to keep playing them.
Yeah.
If you get bored, you hit the space bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of space bar, that was one thing that was kind of fun. If you hit the space bar, it puts it into P mode 3 mode. So people were having fun playing with the palettes this week as well and giving it custom looks. So,
and it helps for those people that are running SCART CoCos like Peter, for example, or pals, that you actually would have a color version of it rather than just black and white.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a good game. I don't know if we have a whole lot to say about it, but it seemed to me people had fun with it. And
do we have a drum roll for the next game?
Hold on. Hold on a sec. 10 lives. That was all you got, and you didn't earn any more. And that was so that was it. Basically, see how far you can get.
Any puns on the cash versus credit that we could do? Good on that.
Yeah.
I believe when we were live streaming this, somebody had asked if they were playing this in the UK, would they be pound signs instead of dollar signs? I'm not sure if that conversion was ever made.
Well, they do know what dollars are, so I suppose it works.
Yeah, that'd be
Pound
funny.
man has a completely different connotation.
Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah, Nick Marotta and I were actually going to use Canadian dollars because then we get a 1.3 gain, on the points. But
that's
we
right.
got told that wasn't the proper way to play it for the competition. So
not all the time.
Was there any specific strategies with this game at all? I mean, this is one I was not familiar with. I didn't play this one back in the day. So
Learning how to fling yourself off the ladders to get some of the dollar signs.
Yeah.
You jump button.
Yeah.
Well, my score does not indicate that my advice should be heeded in any way. But one of the things I found later on is that if you try to get all the dollars at the top of the screen first, it's actually better because there's less bad guys at the beginning of the round. And, if you get the bottom ones and you go to the top, there's so many cats and birds, it becomes a big pain. So I did find that if I tried to clear the top of the screen really quick and then I could take my time on the lower half, it was easier because the bad guys always seem to start from the top and work their way down.
And you got rewarded a lot more for shooting the birds and cats because the dollars were only worth 50, whereas shooting the bird was 250, and the cat was I think 150. So it seemed to really reward you for hitting
attacking wildlife. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Right. If you catch the bombs too, they won't become cats. So catching bombs minimizes the threats on screen.
But then you only got 30 points for that. But I mean, there's still points. So.
Well, it'd let you survive better too, because then you wouldn't have so many cats running around. So.
And cats.
Memories.
I do remember in the old Rainbows when this first came out, though, this was advertised as one of the first games that have like dozens of screens, more than 40.
Yes. And also had the well, not really an Easter egg. It was pretty obvious when you got to the level. There was the author's names.
The author's names.
So it wasn't a very subtle Easter egg, but it was definitely. So I assume that they were okay with the publishers were okay with that.
Yeah, it was an Easter egg in your face.
Exactly. Exactly. So
that's a good game.
Yeah. Thanks
32K
guys
required.
again all right. So if there's not much more to say about this, then we'll talk about next week's game, which shall be anybody?
Speed Racer.
Speed Racer.
Which track are we using as a standard?
We are going to use track 2. So this is very important. Track 2.
Track 2?
Track 1 is a little too simplistic. It was just a loop. So we'll use track 2.
Could you say it in French for our
track 2?
Thank you.
Duh.
Peter, can you verify? Did he pronounce that correctly?
That's absolutely perfect, as far as I know.
Was that a laugh track? That's awesome.
It was off the Fairlight.
Oh.
Norm!
Now we have a laugh track.
How's life treating you? So yes.
Finally, somebody thinks this show is funny.
I got a rock.
Here's something funny. Steve Strobridge's picture is made by an MC-10.
Well.
All right. So anyway, before the show goes
Fantastic
completely off
machine,
the
that
rails,
MC-10.
Yeah, here we go.
next week's
Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
Next week's game, Speed Racer Track 2, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks a lot, guys, for continuing to support this segment.
All right, and Curtis, do we want to take another break and come back with news, or you want to go straight into?
Can I make a prediction?
Sure.
I'm going to predict that Samuel Gimes is going to have a catchy tune that sounds something like "Go Speed Racer, Go."
Well, we'll have to see.
I feel like you're trying to bait Samuel Gimes.
Yeah.
I would never do that. I just want to make sure that I can really please Ron Delvaux because he is a strict critic.
Well, as you know, Ron got a start as a judge on American Idol. So
That's right. Gets a hook. Remember that Gong Show?
Well,
as far as GameON news, actually, there's not too many, so I wouldn't mind tacking it on before we do a commercial break. Or
okay.
something.
Do you want me to the GameON intro? This is the only GameON intro I have. So,
yeah, sure.
Sure, why not? Get ready for GameON. We were talking about games because we like them, and Curtis knows a lot about them.
Already paid for, might as well use it.
That wasn't condescending.
Needs more reverb.
Needs more cowbell.
It was condescending. Oh.
Yeah, I'm just setting that up, and you guys got the screen there. So the first, good. Okay, first one up, Jim Gerrie, of course, because a week has passed, so obviously he wrote some more games. He took a bit of a break this week. He only wrote one that I saw. Actually, that's not true. He did some slight modifications to one of his previous ones, which I didn't bother putting in because it was a very minor modification. So anyway, in this case here, this is actually like classic computer times 2. So we got the MC10 that he writes his stuff for, and as you can see in the remarks in the bottom, this is a conversion of the little brick out that Steve Wozniak wrote in the integer basic that Steve wrote for the Apple II before AppleSoft Basic came out, which was made by Microsoft, which added high res and floating point. So this is the original cassette-based basic that the Apple II had back in like 77. And one of the demo programs they gave with it was Steve Wozniak's little bust-out game. So he actually converted it over to the CoCo side of things, which I thought was pretty cool because that's even more retro than the MC10 or the CoCo itself. So
check out that paddle action.
Yeah, the physics of how that thing reflects, I'm not too sure on, but I think it's been improved since. Mark, since you're actually an Apple II guy, do you have any comments on the original Woz breakout that this is based on?
Well, not really. I mean, Woz like video games, and that's one of the things you want to do is his own color and sound, just like this, little bips and boops, the paddle. So yeah, it's very cool. It's been around since what, 77? So I mean,
yeah,
it's a very classic game you could run at home for those lucky people who had an Apple II.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. I like that. It was double retro.
So you play this until there's no balls left, correct?
Yeah, and then it refills up again.
Then it refills again.
Yeah. Next up, Chet, who's actually on the panel today, has released the first public beta of Digger 3. It does have a couple minor known bugs that we've been working on. I think it only has the first 10 levels, and has hard mode disabled. And I know I've seen some comments on the Amigos. Some of the Amigos viewers have mentioned that maybe you shouldn't rename the levels to be normal and hard because easy isn't really descriptive, as they put it. That's what actually playing the game is. But anyway, for the people that have watched us, doing various demos or watching some of the Chet's videos when he's done some live testing and stuff here, there's an actual playable version with the first 10 levels. Now, Chet, are the first 10 levels cemented in at this point, or are you still doing tweaks to those as well?
There's been a couple of minor tweaks, but nothing major. Mostly performance stuff and tweaks for the AI. But I mean, we're pretty much code complete now. I mean, it's I made a few tweaks this morning and finishing up the final level, and then it's all the final testing, the full playthrough, and the performance testing, and that's it. We're done.
Cool. And you're going for 40 levels? No, not 37 like I think you originally planned?
Actually, it's changed, but I'm not going to say how many there are.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So 11.
It's actually changed, so nobody knows now. It'll be somewhere between 20 and 50.
Okay. Anyway, for any of those of you who've been watching with bated breath as we've been showing demo videos and stuff here, you actually have a playable demo you can try now with the first 10 levels, basically as they're going to appear in the final game.
Yes.
And 512K CoCo 3 required, does not require 6309. Features, four-way scrolling, parallax scrolling, digitized sound effects. It's an awesome game. Just go grab it. Keyboard too, if you don't have a joystick. CoCo 3 obviously required, or a CoCo 3 emulator. And I'm sure Chet will keep us posted.
Yes, I'll be out in the next couple of weeks.
Cool. Looking forward to it, so I can get frustrated and pull my hair out.
Oh yes.
Next up, Paul Thayer now has Timberman available for paid download at itch.io. And this here is the official announcement he did on Facebook, mentioning that it's out. And here's the actual screen splash on itch.io itself. So it has some screenshots and some details about the game. For $5, you get the game itself as a digital download. You also get a full color PDF of the manual. Is Paul still on the call? Because if he wants to do any comments on that, he can.
I have a question.
Yep.
If I'd like to get a black and white PDF, could I save 50 cents on that?
I think you have to take it down to your nearest Kinko's and get them to print it out on a black and white printer.
Paul Thayer is on the panel.
Paul, any comments on your experience with itch.io so far?
He loved it.
I think he was talking, but it was very faint.
It was much better than Cats.
Well, I think we posted the link in the chat, and it's a big community for independent game developers. They have all sorts of both traditional type of Windows, Mac games, but they also have these fantasy consoles, which basically mimic the old style graphics and kind of people develop for. And then the Commodore 64 community is very active on itch.io. So we've got Paul Thayer on there as developer, as well as Erico as well on itch.io. So hopefully it'll be another destination that the CoCo community can invade and take over, like Discord.
Or YouTube, like right now.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, Paul Shoemaker, just after he released his solo poker game, which is a conversion from CoCo 2 to CoCo 3 with some really nice graphics, he comes up with this. It says, messing around with another possible idea this evening. So many ideas, so little time, and also some of my ideas are now beyond my actual programming skill level. That's me writing Nitrous 9 right now, actually. But the graphics here is like using the 4-color 640 mode, I believe, and it actually looks pretty good. So I'm interested in what kind of a game he's going to come out with this here.
Yeah, you can see how I've been a big proponent of using that mode. I think that when the CoCo 3 came out, people were so excited to have actual colors that they used the 320 mode a lot. But hopefully we'll see some development in this.
Yeah, because I mean, there's some pretty capable graphics you can do in that, and you can obviously fit more text if you need it. If you want to do like a hybrid graphic adventure game with animation and some real time elements there, it's a perfect mode for that kind of thing.
And you can use any 4 colors, so it's not like the P-Mode 4.
Yeah, exactly. Next up, this is a YouTube channel I've not seen before. It's called The New Retro Show. Apparently, it's been around for a while, and his goal is that he takes retro computers and he tries to find newly or relatively recently released software for them. And he decided to do a special on the CoCo and the MC10. So he features a couple of Jim Gerrie's games on this one. And then he featured Karen's Dungeons game. And he's running these in emulators. So I've actually tried to contact him. I haven't heard back from him yet, but we've had quite a few games since, Dungeons was released in 2018, I believe. So it's already a couple years old, and with stuff that Chet's done, Paul Shoemaker's done, Paul Thayer's done, and a bunch of others. There's quite a bit more. Nick, etc. So
Rick
I'm hoping to
Adams.
get contact with him, maybe get him on the show here to kind of discuss maybe some newer CoCo stuff. I won't play the whole thing here, but you guys can go watch the reviews. He's playing with, like I said, with emulators at this point. He doesn't actually have the real hardware, but he tries some basic games and some other things too. So I'm looking forward to hopefully getting some contact with him and maybe get him on the show. And the last one here, now Canadian Retro Things is actually in the chat. But basically he did a, I hope this won't be too loud here.
Good channel.
He has a kind of a review of an old book series that used to be out. This is kind of like the Choose Your Own Adventures, if you guys remember those from the early 80s.
If you've been
where
following
basically
my
you'd read a
videos,
couple pages of text, and then you get to pick what your next move was, and it would tell you to jump to page whatever. Well, this took it to another level. You actually had little basic programs, and this was cross-platform, so it ran on the CoCo and the Model 1, 3, the Apple II, the Atari, the Commodore, etc. And you would basically read up to a certain point, then you have to punch in a basic program, and then you'll get results from that program, like it might be a decoder. You have to type in some what looks like random gibberish, and then you would type it in to get the secret message so you can make your decision. And then in other parts later on, it actually tried to teach you a little bit of programming. So it'd give you a basic program listing, say, modify one line so that this program now runs for what you need it to do. So actually kind of taught you a very, very basic little bit of programming in it too. And I hadn't actually played any of these. I remember seeing them, but I never actually did play these. So it was actually kind of interesting for me to see it. Did anybody else here on the panel have experience playing or going through these particular books back in the day?
They're computer programs that are made
I
for
did.
the IBM PC.
I did once. I remember a buddy of mine at school. He had 2 or 3, and he lent me one for Commodore 64. And they were good. I didn't actually read the book begin to end, but I tried most of the programs in it. Yeah. There were things like the character in the book was a secret agent or something, and he came to a door and he had to unlock the door with a special code. And in order to get the special code, you needed to tap in a program, and then tap in a sentence or something, and it had converted in such a way that it spit out a number, and then the number was the code he needed to open the door or whatever. It was an interesting read. They were interesting books.
Yeah, I do like the fact that some of the programs were just like, well, one was like an interpreter, shifted ASCII characters around, so you type in some gibberish that you found some secret code, and it would translate it for you once you type the program in. But not just typing in programs blindly and then running them as an interactive thing, but you actually got programs that you had to modify yourself to figure out. So you had to learn a little tiny bit of programming. So it's like nice introduction, I think, to getting some people used to basic programming at least a little bit. So it tried to teach as well as just be entertaining, which I thought was pretty innovative. Anyway, that's all the GameON news I have for today.
Oh, jeez.
It's the first time we've ever gotten applause for
GameON. I thought the clapping was just trying to wake me up. Sorry.
Well, Curtis, what would you like to do? Go straight into news? You want to take a break? What's your flavor?
I would say we do a quick commercial break. If you've got a shorter segment of commercials, that'd be best. And then I'll do the news, and then we'll get into the project updates and acquisitions.
Well, I can always make something short, so maybe we can watch something for a shorter period of time, like Fletcher. Here we go.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Fletcher, I don't need that report tomorrow.
Great, JT.
I need it tonight.
But JT...
Fletcher saved $300 on her office away from the office. Radio Shack's revolutionary Model 100 computer. It's a word processor, phone directory, and dialer. It even communicates with the office computer.
Fletcher, how's that report? Fletcher.
Radio Shack's Model 100. Save $300 and put it to work.
You'll go far, Fletcher. You'll go far.
And now, CoCo Thoughts by Samuel Gimes. On holidays, Uncle JT would entertain us with stories of his business conquests and his assistant who would meet any deadline that he imposed, no matter how ridiculous. Well, until she shot him in the face, that is.
From around the world, what you need to know. Get caught up on News with L. Curtis Boyle.
And now a Muppet News Flash.
Take it away, Curtis.
Okay. No, it says I can't share the screen yet.
Go ahead.
There we go. Okay, so first up in the news, we've got Chibi Akumis, who actually has been doing a series of stuff on the 6809 recently. So we did lesson 4 on the general 689. He's also covering specific 6809 machines too. So he's covered like the Dragon CoCo and done a Hello World. He's doing some stuff in the Vectrix. He's just done stuff on the Fujitsu FM77. This is part of his general 6 out of 9 series where he goes into the stacks. He was quite impressed that the 6 out of 9 actually had 2 stacks because that wasn't too common back then, obviously. The user stack, and he actually gets into a fair bit of detail. Does 1 or 2 little programming tricks with the stack too, so it gets into slightly more advanced. Though he'll delve into it even more when he gets further up in his little courses here. And his ultimate goal, as I've mentioned before, is he's planning on writing a Vectrex game. So he's actually kind of just learning the whole CPU and then the Vectrex system itself, but he's learning these other 6 out of 9 machines at the same time. It's a pretty good series, actually. I'm pretty impressed with it. Next up, Carlos Martins Nabito. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He posted this cool link to some 1983 to 1987 news about the Brazilian CoCo clones. Now, it's written in Portuguese, as you can say here. So if Mark posts a link for it, you can actually Google translate this sucker, and then it becomes in English for us. So it goes into the CP400 in this particular case, and does old ads, and there's a ton of articles. There's a whole bunch of stuff here you can read on it. To give you a unique perspective on how the Brazilian clone market works, because of course, as we've had some of the people from Brazil on before, they weren't really allowed to sell the actual CoCo and stuff, so that you had to sell something made in Brazil. So people just cloned every machine, not just the CoCo. And sometimes they did little improvements and keyboards and stuff. So it's a really interesting snippet of history that a lot of us don't know that much about, kind of like the SCART CoCo that Peter showed earlier. So lots of cool things on there. Definitely worth the read. Next up here, Jason Weber on Facebook is helping organize Tandy for this year, which is a YouTube virtual fest of sorts. And he's looking for suggestions for CoCo 3 video portion of the show because he's planning on showing off some CoCo 3 specific stuff. Now, he has a CoCo 3 with a 639 and pre-installed, 512K RAM, and a CoCo SDC, and he's looking for suggestions for games or programs that will really show off the hardware or show off the software capability of the CoCo 3. So he's looking for suggestions. We've had a few people that have mentioned a few things. We've mentioned Digger 3 since the preview got released, and Donkey Kong by Sockmaster, the Mod Player, Nitrous 9, Sinistar, Contras, all that kind of stuff. If you guys go through that list though, and you can think of anything that any of the other people that have posted comments on there have missed that you think should be good to show off on this other show in September, please do so. We want to show the CoCo in this best light. Next up, Frederick Grillon. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that one right either. I have a French theme going on here today. So this is actually Quebec Canadian French commercial ad from the Radio Shack catalog in '82, I believe it was, showing the the upgraded from 4K to 16K at the same price as last year's 4K, and that $549 Canadian is exactly what I paid for my 4K CoCo 1 in 1981. So I remember these ads in English actually. So it's kind of interesting seeing the the ads. You can also see what the Canadian prices were for various things, like how much 32K RAM upgrade was, how much the extended basic upgrade was, which is $150 at the time, and then also some of the game cartridges that were available then and what their prices were in Canadian and in Canadian French.
Good Black Beauty joysticks.
Yeah, with the metal unscrewable handles.
I believe in France they're called Beauty Noir. Bella Noir. Yeah. That's actually a hybrid of Italian French
there. Okay, further on, James Jones, who was in the chat earlier too, so if he wants to chime in anything while I'm blabbing about what little bit I know about it. He's actually working on doing a Google Doc presentation for Basic 09 from the perspective of somebody coming to it from Disk Basic or Super Extended Basic or what have you. So it's kind of a way to teach you, if you're used to regular extended color basic type thing and you want to learn Basic 09, it's coming from that perspective. And he's actually got the Google Doc already well started. There's a couple dozen pages in already, kind of going through what some of the differences are and some of the different things you can do, and et cetera. And he's planning on making an entire series. And this is something I was planning on trying to do in video at some point. And I probably still will, because I think video helps with certain people, like Stevie, for example, that's more visually oriented.
I need a pop-up book.
Yeah, yeah, pop-up book with your little type-in programs. Yeah, but basically, it's a good idea. That's something I've been thinking about doing for a while. I just haven't had the time to do it. So I'm glad James is tackling it now, so you don't have to wait for my sorry ass to finally get it done.
Hey Curtis, will you be able to perform it with finger puppets for Stevie? That might be
maybe
visually, yeah.
Yeah.
Now a Broadway musical.
Yeah.
Complex
sequel to
variable
Hamilton.
types and finger puppets.
Anyway, it's an ongoing project. So if and there's been some suggestions like how to write it to make it easier for somebody coming from that perspective. Now, the one thing is that James is like a computer scientist. He's incredibly knowledgeable, and sometimes he goes way over my head. And I know Basic 9 fairly well, so sometimes he may need some suggestions to, for lack of a better term, dumb it down even more than he is now. Just to make it more understandable for the layperson, or maybe some people like me or some other people that are not quite at that level of programming knowledge can actually help with getting the simpler ideas across. But it's well worth the read if you want to take a look into how Basic 9 and versus Super Extended Basic and how to convert between the two, and some of the shortcuts you can take either way type things. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. I actually plan on maybe having collaborate with him on it later, and using him as a definitely as a technical reference when I get to the video version of the series, whenever that happens. Anyway, on Facebook, you send him some feedback, peruse their Google Doc that he's got a public post to in there, and then give some feedback on how to make the series better, and maybe some certain things that people would like to learn first.
So you're telling me after all these years, I've got to finally join Facebook?
Well, it's ironic because you actually did a Basic 9 column kind of along the same lines. I think yours was more on OS 9 in general, but you did that in 6-8 micros back in the day.
Yeah, that was many, 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 many moons ago.
Next up. This is actually still James. This is the actual Google Doc itself. And he calls it Escape from Color Basic, which I thought was cool. Some others may disagree with me on that, but yes, Nick Marode, I was thinking of you.
Thank you.
And Stevie. But he kind of goes into the origins of it, and then he kind of goes into some of the differences of it, and some of the basic tenets of what's different in the language. And like I said, it's an ongoing thing. He's getting into some stuff here that he's got planned, but definitely worth a read.
Yep. And James is in the chat. He says, yes, please let me know when I go too deeply into jargon or can simplify things. It is a matter of letting the reader use his or her brain on the subject matter instead of my convoluted writing.
And as people have ever read anything that I've written, I'm pretty convoluted myself. So,
and let's we not forget, there is a middle ground to training wheels to getting into Basic 09. You can run Radio Shack Basic by Chris Burke in OS 9.
Yeah, that's available. You can use that actually if you use two windows next to each other. You can actually, hopefully follow some of James's samples. Like here's super extended code, here's Basic 9 code, and you can actually literally just hit clear to go back and forth to try the samples yourself. So it's a nice environment for learning that transition. Next up, Timothy Halloran, whom I also believe is in chat, who's doing the USB powered CoCo. And he says, initial test with USB power and CoCo 3 got the system mostly working. Several puzzlers to figure out. You can see the USB plug into the power strip. No AC power via the node taped over the power cord. This CoCo 3 also has the 2 meg voice and tech memory, Hitachi 639 CPU, and Ed's excellent little sidecar, the SD or the mini MPI and the SDC. And yes, it boots OS 9 just fine. So he's already got it to the point where he's running peripherals and stuff here based on running just USB power to power the CoCo. Now, obviously, the 2 meg boards these days with static RAM take far less power, generate less heat. The 609 takes 1/10 the power of the 6809, so that probably definitely helps on getting this running smoothly. But it's interesting that pretty soon we might have color computers running completely off USB power, which means you can literally take it to the airport if you had a little portable screen, something just plug it into the USB charger or something like that, and flip people out watching you try to run a game of CashMan on the CoCo 3 sitting in the airport on a full-size keyboard. I want to see pictures of the first person that actually does that too. Next up, Soren Rouge, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, has been typing in the Dragon 128 drivers for OS 9. Now, a guy named Richard Harding did the original port. Now, this is for the Dragon 128 beta. This never got actually released. It was in prototyping stage. There's some working prototypes kicking around, more than one. And it was a machine that actually had an MMU built in and some better graphics cards and a whole bunch of other things built in. It was meant to be more of a professional machine, running OS 9 level 2. It actually had higher res graphics modes in some cases than the CoCo did. Never got released. And Richard Harding actually has the physical printed listings from back when he wrote the drivers for the Dragon before it got canceled. And he sent them to Soren, who actually has the Dragon 128 hardware. And he's been typing them all in. He's actually gotten the system booted up and running. He's not done yet, but it has a lot of interesting bits to it. And I won't go into everything here. There's a ton of stuff. There's a manual that you can actually read that gives a fair bit of the details. But it had cool things like the basic 9. In this particular one, if it detected you were trying to use a graphics keyword, like right now in basic 9, we have to do run GFX2 or run GFX or whatever your external program, and you send that sequence of commands to that and parameters. What they did is they tweaked basic 9. So if it went through the keyword list and it couldn't find anything that it understood, it would automatically try to link to the graphics package, which had these other extra commands. But rather than you having you manually put run GFX2 blah blah blah, it would actually do that internally. So you just type in the command just like a normal command. You do like line 5,5 to 100,10, and it would actually figure out that's not a normal basic 9 command. It would automatically fire that off internally to the graphics package. So it became inline actual commands in basic 9 as far as you're concerned, even though it is technically still doing the same thing that basic 9 on the CoCo does, but it actually made it easier to use. So that's kind of cool. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff in here too. So, and there's a little sample code here of some of the commands here. Like he's got G clear for graphics clear, C set, and he's got move to graphics cursor and circle. And you'll notice that there's no run GFX2 or anything like that. It's just the command, and you just send it the parameters, even though internally it's doing it kind of like we're doing it anyway. But he goes through a bunch of it, and he's still working on it. It's an unfinished project at this point, but he does have it to the point of up and running. The Dragon 128 actually went up to 768K of RAM, which is more than the CoCo 3 did several years later, officially. Had the graphics res, I think, went up to 512 by 512 by 4, something like that. You could do up to 64K on one graphics screen. So it was pretty decent graphics. Had the AY sound chip and a bunch of other things too. So I thought that was kind of cool. Another OS 9 related one here. Sorry, guys. So this one here, Carlos Camacho posted the cover to an OS 9 book called The OS 9 Guru, Part 1, The Facts. And this was supposed to be a series. I believe it only maxed out at the 1. Written by Paul Estain, who's not somebody I've heard of, but apparently he was quite renowned in the OSK community at the time. And he actually had done a lot of work in the 689 version of OS 9 before that. I'm not aware if he did any books on the 689 side of things, but he was one of the gurus, as they put it back then. And this one here, another extended Dragon. So this is posted in the Dragon Facebook group. So the Dragon 200E is one of the other prototypes that was done of Dragon, the next generation, that never really met fruition here. But they'd had an external character ROM. So the VDG has a built-in ROM, and you were allowed to externally hook up a ROM, and with a single poke, you could actually swap that other character set in. And that's how the lowercase kits and stuff used to work for the CoCo back in the day. Well, the Dragon 200E had one of those built in. And they've been trying to get the emulation of the Dragon 200E working in MAME. And that was one of the last things left that wasn't working. It is now officially working. So as of this next release of MAME, the Dragon 200E is fully emulated. So if you guys want to check out some, hardware that never got past really the prototyping stage, and has very few physical computers existing these days, and want to see what the Dragon 200E was about, MAME will have it. And next up, this is kind of a self-promotion because I'm kind of a whore that way. So I've been working on beta 6. Oh, go ahead.
No, whores get paid. So you're not.
I'm a cheap whore.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we saw you with the second comment in that couple posts back there.
So anyway, I've been doing some more work on beta 6, and that's a long-term project. There's a ton of stuff Bill and I want to get done. He's working on various things. I'm working on various things. But this one was a fairly quick little hack I did to the graphics driver. Now, in previous beta 5, I'd optimized the, it was beta 4, I can't remember. But basically, I'd optimized some of the memory copy on the 689 version to run a bit faster using a mini stack blast with 4 bytes. So I decided, just for a joke, because it was only going to take 6 extra bytes to do it, and a lot of the internal structures in OS 9 fall on even 8-byte boundaries, like palette copying and get put buffers and GP loads and a bunch of other crap. So I decided, well, how if I unroll the loop a little bit? I'll do 8 bytes at a time and just unroll it. So I had to add 6 bytes of instructions. That's all I did. And it ended up doing speed up on screen scrolling, some get put buffers, and some other things that actually was a bit bigger of an increase in speed than I was expecting. So I thought I'd show the results here. So these are the 639 versions for these little demos. And on the left-hand side will be your Oops, that's not the right one. This one here, sorry. So this will be basically the 6809 3.30/beta 1. So this is the official Nitro release on the repository on the far left. In the middle is the previous speed ups I've done for the scrolling before, and on the far right is the current one. So this will be either 6809 on all of these cases here. I won't run the whole video. I just ran the whole video because I was trying to figure out timings between, you know, how much of a speed gain. And to my surprise, I'm actually getting about a 14 to 15% increase in speed on the scrolling. Now, this isn't quite fair because it's also got the overhead of actually writing all the characters and stuff out. But it gives you an idea of the speed scrolling, and the get put buffers use the same technique here. So. And if you let it run through the whole 2-minute sequence here, you'll eventually see that the right-hand side, when we started last, actually passes both of the other two and finishes first. So this is the hardware text screen version, and it's not quite 6 or 9 speeds, but it's getting up there. And then on the graphics screen, which was notoriously slow on the original CoCo, like if you ever run the original stock OS 9 level 2 and you're kicking a 640 by 192 by 4 color screen and try to do text on it, it's like watching molasses run uphill. So this one here is basically got the Nitro repository beta 1 of ease of use on the far left again, beta 5 in the middle, and then the speed ups on beta 6 on the right. And you can almost watch the ripple effect on the far left one, like that's how much slower it was now. So I think it's about 35% faster now than the original version from the Nitro repository. So I'm pretty pleased with that. I mean, it's still not up to 639 speeds, but it's one thing I'm trying to do with this is I'm trying to get the 6809 speed wise, especially on graphics stuff, as caught up as I can to the 6309. Obviously, I'll never make it that far because the 609 is just a more capable chip. But for people that want to write games or, you know, do word processors with graphics or something like that, I want to get the 609 as close to the 609 in speed as possible, so you don't have to write a game and go 609 has to be required because it'll just run so dog slow on a stock machine that, you know, you don't want to touch it. This way you'll have a base that is actually pretty good. If you can design a game for 609, Basic 09, or C or whatever else, because this works with all the languages, assembly and everything else too, going through the legal windowing system, then you'll have a pretty good speed boost right off the start. And if you have a 609, you can add bonus features or just it runs faster. So I was pretty pleased that it did a 14-15% speed increase for only 6 bytes. That was beyond what my original goal was. So. And then the last videos here, as you may know, I, along with a few other people, I think there's just under a dozen of us, have got Gimme X prototypes from Ed Snyder. Now, we have discovered that the CoCo SDC, and this is due to limitations to the microcontroller that's in the SDC, cannot handle running at 3 megahertz. It actually screws up in IO errors and scrambles data and all kinds of stuff. So we have to kick some drivers down to slow it back down for it. So Bill's working on that right now for Nitrous 9. If you're in BASIC, basically you'll just have to run the regular speed through disk BASIC and then kick in the high speed after you're not talking to disk IO. If you have a machine language program that's doing disk IO, you'll either have to kick it down to 2 megahertz and then do the normal timing changes you have to do that, or kick it down to 1 megahertz if you're making like DOS ROM calls and stuff. But the 3 megahertz is too fast for the SDC to do at full 3 megahertz. So what I've been doing here until we get that all working in Nitrous 9 is I wrote a little Basic 9 program in another window, and I just a couple of pokes, that's all it does. So I can kick it between 2 megahertz and I can kick it up to 3 and then back again. So if I run programs that are not disk-based, like they load off disk and then can run completely out of RAM, you can actually see what the speedups are. So this first instance here is the famous Basic 9 bouncing ball demo. So I got 2 megahertz on the left, 3 megahertz mode on the right on the Gimme X. This one actually has sleep calls, so it's not the full speed increase you could see. There's a bit, because it's doing page flipping and stuff, and I wanted to make sure the timing wasn't catching a screen mid-scan, which Bill and I have to fix, so you don't have to do this anymore, but we haven't got to that yet either. But it does show a little bit of the speed increase here. So I'll just play this little clip. And that's getting closer to the 639 speeds. Actually, it's probably past the 639 at this point on the on 2 megahertz anyway. So you can see a fairly good speed increase there. The next one here, this is a Basic 9 program as well, Super Ike, which is what we've been designing all the icons, thanks to Rob Inman and Nick Marentes and myself. We've done a ton of icons. So this one here, I just do a quick little demo of doing a vertical flip of the icon, and then it updates the new icon on the upper left-hand corner as well. And this is doing individual paints and stuff, but you can see it's a fair bit faster there. The one on the right's already done, still drawing on the left. Now it's finished. This one here is for Paul Thayer. Hopefully you can still see and hear. This one actually has an audio clip, so let me know if you guys can hear the audio okay or not. Actually, it might be too loud if I leave it at this level. Oh, no, I guess they're turned down. So on this case here, this is completely loaded in, but I haven't adjusted the speed for the sound sample. So you're going to have the Smurf version of Come Guy playing here because the sound is going to be ramped up by megahertz too. So I started out with some sound on the 3 megahertz side on the right, so you can hear the sort of Smurfy sound version of it. And then you'll actually hear me mouse clicking and stuff because I was just recording my screen to do this. You'll actually see the or hear the 2 megahertz, the standard version on the left. And now these are the 609 versions, so they're a little bit faster than the 609 version to begin with. But the speed of the scrolling here is what I really want to get a point across, because this is a completely unlocked, not frame rate locked program, which will give you a more true appreciation of the speed difference between the two. So no, Paul was complaining earlier that Come Guy was playing a little slow and he liked the 609 version better. So there's the 3 megahertz version that might even be more Paul's speed. But the scrolling is definitely way faster. I mean, that's a full megahertz faster.
Yeah.
And last, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just say take that, Paul.
And the last one is Rescue on Fractus. So this is one game that I've actually optimized a fair bit in the 639 already. It's already running 35-40% faster than the stock one. So this is the 6309 version on both 2 megahertz and 3 megahertz. And this one actually was a pretty noticeable difference because it's not frame locked either. I didn't bother with sound because the sound in Fractus is kind of irritating. But this one actually, you can really see the flight change in speed here. Now I will mention I was recording this with my phone in my right hand and trying to play the game with my left hand on the joystick, so I play terribly. So don't hold that against me. But now it's almost running like at a decent flight simulator speed on the right, as you can see. And the left one's already, like I said, 40% faster than the original. So
Who's playing this game? It's terrible gameplay.
Yeah, I suck. What can I say?
Just kidding.
Anyway, that's a bit of a sneak preview of the speed ups you can expect on the Gimme X. There's still some hardware bugs and stuff. There's some timing issues. I've noticed a few games, like I tried playing Thexter, the OS 9 version of it, and if I run it at 2 megahertz, I get a ton of snow in the middle, 50 lines of the screen for some reason. If I kick it into 3 megahertz, it doesn't. So there's still some tweaks with timing of changing palette registers and how they react compared to the original Gimme, etc. So it's still much a work in progress. It's still very much a beta board at this point. He has done a couple of firmware updates that we have done, which has fixed a lot of the problems. There's still more to go. So I mean, it's not going to be released in the next couple of weeks or anything. We want to make sure the hardware is working right. Bill and I want to make sure that Nitrous 9 is ready out the gate when the board's released to be, here, run at 3 megahertz, have fun type things. So, and that's the news I had for today.
Excellent. Any comments on the news? Not enough OS 9 for me, but that's just me.
I'm waiting to see what people can do with the 3 megahertz though, because that opens some doors. I'd like to see what Chet could do with 3 megahertz running, and a 6309 or something like that combined. That would be amaze balls. I believe this is a technical term.
Yeah, Chet, you gonna take the OS 9 3 megahertz challenge? No.
Of course.
I don't know if he needs the OS 9 part of it. He might use it as a launcher, but
OS 9's a breeze to work with, man. I used to work at Microware, remember?
Yeah, he did.
I know all kinds of stuff about OS 9.
You did more 68K stuff though, or OS 9000 or what?
It was, let's see, I did mostly 68K stuff when I was there. Although it was most of it was cross-platform because it was all Maui and David, so it was the interactive multimedia stuff that they were doing. So all platforms really.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because back then they had OS 9 for ARM, or not. Yeah, they might have ARM. They had PowerPC for sure, the DEC Alpha, the Intel 68K, etc.
Yeah, they didn't have ARM at the time though.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they had Spark though.
And then you're doing some more testing here on Digger while we're talking, it looks like?
Oh, yeah, well, I've just got it running in the background. I'm actually just going through and putting some stuff together for it for the release.
Okay, cool. Are you playing another beta too, or is that one beta the one we're going to get until the full release?
No, it's I mean everything is all the code's pretty much done. I mean I don't foresee any more changes to it, and all the maps except for that very last one are done. So it's just that last bit of testing, that last run through to make sure everything's right and dandy. Because I did change some tiles, and some of them were showing up as the wrong ones. So it's just those little details I'm going through right now. But yeah, release is imminent.
And you're still guaranteeing that we're all going to go completely insane on that last level?
Oh yeah, you're all going to hate me even more.
Okay. Well, I think why don't we do something like take a little break and listen to some Nightmare Highway song from Rick Adams and the crew, and come back for final thoughts, and then I think we've we'll see what everyone has to say that.
Have you cleared this with Ron Delvaux to make sure he's going to be okay with it?
Well, as you know, Ron Delvaux got a start on America's Got Talent, where he would he would often hit the buzzer very early.
Grab the hook.
We'll be right back. Enjoy this lovely song about one of the greatest games ever created for the Color Computer 1, 2, and 3, and a game that will work quite nicely on Peter Cullen's PAL CoCo 2. It's called Nightmare Highway, and it goes a little something like this.
Got some time to kill, might play a little Zaxxon. Might double back to play a little Temple of Rum. Dungeons of Daggeroth, color baseball. But none can hold a candle to the greatest of them all. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Sure, I love my Sailor Man and Firefall. Go on a rampage for some super pitfall. Shanghai me into a game of rogue or demon attack. But sooner or later, you know I've got to come back to Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. It's got a road. And it's got a car. Dodge the furniture and you'll be a pop star.
Okay.
Well, okay, maybe I just stick to the facts. To tell this truth, this game really ain't all that. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. I used to bow down to the Donkey King. Grabber and Cashman used to be my thing. Megabug, Buzzard Bait, Sea Dragon 2. But none of those can satisfy me much as you do. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway.
Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway.
All right, and we're back. Nightmare Highway, the game based on a real life story. I can't remember who it was who hit a furniture on the way to CoCo Fest. Does anyone recall?
I think it was Ron Delvaux. He chopped down a tree and it landed on him.
No, that was a different game.
Terry
Terry
Steen.
Steen.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Of course, who can?
I want to say that that singer was a bit pitchy.
Who can who can
Now you
remember?
brought that up. How about that ukulele?
Ukulele was on fleek. We'll give it that much. Singer's a bit pitchy, though.
Jerk.
Well,
Rick Adams is a great singer.
He is. He did a great job on that. Peter, we will get you the link to Nightmare Highway so you can download it and figure out a way to load it up on cassette. Did you have a good time today? Did we scare you off, or you think maybe you come back?
Oh, I'll be back. I'll be back if you'll have me.
Well, there's a sucker,
yeah, for sure.
Sucker born every minute, as I say. So we're glad to have you, and hopefully you'll come in and sit in on the panel in the future or in the live chat. Curtis, great work on all the ease of use stuff coming out, and I'm exploring RSB version 1.03. So I'll get back to you on that and try that out a little bit. And David O'Connor, anything else you wanted to add? I think you did mention you had some final thoughts.
I have talking of Nightmare Highway, got some rather revved up sounds for Ron Delvaux for his Mopar.
Hey.
I got a Mopar loaded into these Fairlight.
Got me some Hemi.
Yep, here we go. Bit Hemi, big what's the biggest Hemi?
426. Well.
Okay. Oh, here we go. He's in the 400s. Here we go.
Awesome.
I believe that's a sound effect from next week's game, High Score Challenge.
Could be.
It is.
So Ron, does that sound actually make up for the singing in the previous week there?
I don't think it compares, actually. I think Rick is going to give lessons to Mr. Gimes.
Don't you like how everyone on the show really knows how to let things go?
I swear that sound effect, I could smell burnt rubber.
Yeah, right?
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
It smelled like it was running a little rich.
I think that might have been a 440. It was a cop motor. It's got cop shocks and cop tires.
Let's freaking let Debbie Downer in here today.
Are you familiar with Nitrous 9? They put
I
in
am.
the cars.
Yeah. I got my little bottle and I got my boost button. Yep.
That's right.
Definitely a bit of nitrous on that one, I think.
Can I inject a thought or two? Or
Sure.
No, but thanks for asking.
I was going to save you for last, Stevie, but if you
Oh,
want.
okay. But go ahead. Sorry, I didn't know where we were going.
No. You go ahead and share your thoughts. They better be good at this point.
Well, what I want to do is I actually want to extend my thanks to all of you guys who have been keeping this train on the track for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row now, because I have not been able to stream it. We've had some great shows. We've had some great evening news, and so I just want to give my heartfelt thanks to all of you who have been doing the streaming and the broadcasting and the news anchoring and the co-hosting and just being on, providing content, and just being the amazing people you are. I really appreciate it.
Who are you, and how did you get Stevie's login address?
Yeah. Did you come over with Jim Brain to watch the show? Because he was in a good mood too. So
Yeah.
No, appreciate it.
No, thanks for the kudos, Stevie. It's fun to do it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark B has been helping in the background. I appreciate him. I was able to kind of get up and running pretty quickly with his setup and just change a few things. So he was very helpful.
And thanks, Mark Overholzer, for keeping the links going in the chat there. And
absolutely.
Yeah, the show always is and always has been a team effort, but I appreciate it more when the team is doing it all on their own, because it really shows how hard everybody works all the time, so thanks, guys.
Well, yeah, thanks for the kind words from Nick Marotta, and also, right back at Nick, I was just saying how I know what it's like to have to put those videos together. So yeah, definitely appreciation all around. Mark, any last words from you, Mark? Oh.
Nope, not really. Great show. Always fun. Always glad to be here.
A man of few words. But he we don't get paid by the word, so it works out. But a man who usually has a lot more words. Chet, anything that you have left to say? I mean, we're all holding our breath, waiting for a final version of Digger 3. Anything that you have planned for the rest of the week?
I'm just gonna be doing some stuff for work and cleaning up the levels for Digger 3 and getting all that out there. I mean, it's just the final stretch. Nothing real all that exciting about it.
Okay, now I've said this before. I'm actually waiting for Digger 4. So when will that?
Not happening.
Okay.
Nope. No, this is the last of the series. I'm putting this series to bed. I'm done with it.
Well, you've heard it here first. The digging will come to an end.
The digging will come to an end.
Any luck, George Lucas will do a prequel trilogy, maybe 30 years later.
That's true.
No, I'd rather not have him screw it up. I mean, if he wants to do something, he can go over the Commodore. I mean, that's
Well, that's
Call it Digger 3 Diggity Diggity.
So perhaps we'll see Digger: A New Hope at some point.
No, he might go right to a backhoe or something.
Digger 3D.
Digger 3D, yeah, that's always a possibility.
No, I'm done with this. This series started in '91 and it's almost 3 decades old. So yeah, it's done. It's over.
All right. Well, what a way to end it with the parallax of scrolling and all the colors. I mean, just incredible.
Yeah, ending it with what will be one of the premier games for the CoCo 3.
Yes.
Until I release my next one.
Oh,
that's true. And Retro
you got
Innovations.
something in the oven?
Yeah, he always does. Retro Innovations live chat just heard the word Commodore. It said Commodore.
Yeah, George Lucas is coming to screw that whole genre up, and just let him do it.
Brian Weasler, you joined us after the show started, so we didn't get a chance to talk to you. Anything that you wanted to go over?
Oh, I had a few items we can share, but we can wait till next week. You guys are getting near about 3.5 hours, so no big deal.
All right, it's actually 4.5, but no, it's 3.5.
3.5.
Who's counting?
It just seems like 4.5. That's all.
It feels.
The only thing I've been working on is I did post a picture out on Facebook. I'm trying to get a lot of my stuff organized a little bit better.
Yeah, your magazines. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So I was able to get my hands on a nice metal shelf system, which worked out really well, and it's made it a little bit easier to get those organized there. You can kind of see it here. I can switch a camera view here. You can kind of see it in the background. There it is, just over my head here.
Oh yeah.
Right there. That's a shelf that it's about 7 foot tall.
How long before the lending library starts?
The lending library.
Yeah.
You can check out a book there. Yeah. Might be able to do that. Yeah. There you go.
Boy, am I going to give you late fees.
You still got books from high school that you haven't returned. So
no, I'm just saying some of the books you have I don't have, so I might just accidentally lose them or something.
Oh,
I'll
sure.
be paying late fees.
Oh yeah, I got lost in the mail. So
yeah.
No, other than that, I did get a few other books there, but we'll save it for next week.
All right, we'll keep them waiting. Keep them wanting more. That's what they say.
There you go.
So, Ron, you're good. We took enough breaks. Everything's okay.
Oh yeah, everything's copacetic. Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for joining the panel, Brian Schubring. I just made a fateful decision to purchase that MIDI card from Jim Brain, Retro Innovations. Will I be happy with this product? He says yes. All right. Well, we will see. We'll see.
I have that card. I also bought it, and Brian helped me get it going. I do want to play with it more within OS 9, so I'll be kind of curious to see what you do as far as getting the driver loaded and using it. So I guess I'm just asking to maybe do some posting or something in Discord as you move forward.
I'm just amazed that Retro Innovations has a shipping product. So I'm just in shock.
Yeah, it's a nice, very clean board that he put together. So
yeah, it's very clean. It's actually a little bit more stable than the one that Lester Hands did, or the one that the Glenside did, because he's using more modern components, and that's a few more replaced. That works the same way. So the clock is actually more rock solid because of the clock circuit being used on there. So it's actually works better.
And it runs fine with Ultimuse. You've tried that already, Brian? Or
oh, heck yeah.
Ultimuse. Well, I better stop giving Jim crap here, or I won't. There will be no shipping product, including my product. Jason, you're out there in the car. I don't know what it's like to leave the house. Tell me what it's. What can I experience should I ever leave the house again? No.
Well, it's kind of like it was before, but different.
Yes. Let's remember the before times.
Yeah.
I remember those well. Well, can we find out where you're going? Is it top secret?
I'm traveling the highways and byways of America in search of something or another.
That's right. So
it's pretty generic.
Always a critic, Ron. Stick to your vinyl decals, okay?
Jeez. Well, Jason is on his way somewhere, doing something, but as long as it's within the law and with consenting adults, we who are we to judge? Rick, you anything that you have for us? Any closing thoughts?
Well, I finally get to play with my new Ender 3D printer, and soon my plans will be complete.
It sounds like you should rub your hands together and give an evil laugh to that. Now, will you be taking over the world like Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs? We were talking about that.
No, I'm just going to make a bunch of weird CoCo stuff and produce my own cases to fit them.
Nice.
All right.
Cool. Might have to have a whole Rick Euland segment after you start getting all that going.
Well, I did it before. I plan to do it again. So there we go.
All right. Well, we all arrived. We talked a lot. We talked to Peter Cullen. It was great to thanks, Peter, for going through your story, and great to welcome you to the community. As I said, I think we've said it all. We perhaps said too much. And with that, I think we'll go to the closing credits. What do you think, Curtis and Nick?
Sounds good to me.
Good.
All right.
Robinman, I have one last little cue
we were
to play
almost
for you.
David.
This is a thank you to you, Rodinman. You did a fantastic job, wonderful job, brilliant job, tremendous job.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
thank you. Yeah.
Oh, push the button, Frank.
Yes. I do appreciate that. It's finally some applause on this show. We are very happy for that. Well, thanks for all the sound effects. I someday I'll actually install a soundboard, but until then, we've got some high quality sounds coming from your end. So I appreciate that. Well, everyone, we're gonna play the outro, and we'll see you next week, same time, same channel.
Later, all.
This concludes another episode of CoCo Talk, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer. For all things CoCo Talk, visit us on the web at CoCoTalk.live. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to CoCoTalk@CoCoTalk.live.
CoCo Talk is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, 'cause CoCo Talk is rocking the 8-bit world.
Consider supporting the show with a purchase of merchandise from our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, click the Patreon link at our website at CoCoTalk.live.
CoCo Talk is rocking rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, 'cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world.
CoCoTALK would not exist without the community, its cast, crew, and contributors. Thanks go to Curtis Boyle, David Ladd, Mark Overholzer, Grant Leedy, Bruce Moore, Nick Marentes, Ron Delvaux, Rick Adams, Jason Reichert, Richard Lorbieski, Jim Brain, Tom C., Rob Inman, Mark Bosley, Brian Joyce, Ken Reichert, David O'Connor, Brian Weasler, Terry Steggy, Nick Marotta, John Strong, and many more, especially to Steve Bjork for production suggestions and James Differendaffer for making my head explode. Please help support the CoCo community by visiting some of its various contributors. A list of resources is available at imacoconut.com. That's IMACOCONUT.com. The CoCoTALK theme song is copyright 2008 by D. Bruce Moore and Greg Sheeler. Mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore.